Chapter 1536. Begin. Lin Feng's face heated up from the other party's breath. Jianghu lowered his lids. I'm ready. Aren't we going to start? Of course. Lin Feng moved his right hand and pushed him against the wall. His voice was hoarse. But I have to start. What a joke, he had been kissed by Jianghu before. Every time he kissed him, his waist would weaken and his mind would go blank. Not to mention taking the initiative. Wouldn't he lie flat on the ground? Hence, even if they had to start, he had to be the one to start. Jianghu didn't know what Lin Feng was thinking. But someone had to take the initiative. Of course, he wouldn't reject anyone. Okay, you'll start. Jianghu lowered his gaze as he spoke. Lin Feng moved closer, but somehow he felt that something was very awkward. Probably because his heart was beating too fast. It was so fast that he didn't know why, but he felt that the breath from Jianghu's body had stuck to his body before he even touched him. Jianghu noticed Lin Feng's hesitation. His grip tightened bit by bit. Until now, he was still worried that this fellow couldn't accept it. And he had the mood to do it. But he still hadn't figured out what exactly was going on. Every time he was the one who took the initiative to kiss him. Then he was forced to accept it. Could Lin Feng really accept him as a man? It wasn't just in his mind. No. The moment Lin Feng said those two words, everyone was stunned. Jianghu's heart felt as though it had been cut by a knife. He steadied his breath and tried his best not to show his emotions. Usually this kind of thing can be accepted. You can't look at me like that. Lin Feng raised his eyes once more. Perhaps it was because his skin was too fair, everyone could see the pink on his neck. However, his aura did not lose. Close your eyes. I say, Huzi, do you have any common sense? Who would open their eyes when being kissed? Jianghu paused for a moment before smiling. I forgot, I'll close my eyes now. So this guy was just shy. He even brought up the topic of whether he had common sense or not. Fortunately, he was shy. If he really couldn't accept it, what should he do? The moment Jianghu thought of this, his heart would contract. However, at this moment, Lin Feng lowered his gaze. It was a kiss that left as soon as they touched. If Jianghu's eyes were open, they would be deep. Stop yourself from responding. It was because they hadn't reached the back yet. If he couldn't control himself now, he wouldn't get the sweetest part. Lin Feng only kissed her once, but it was as if he was addicted. The scent became stronger and stronger, causing him to lean in again. But this time he didn't know what went wrong. Jianghu just replied to him. His brain seemed to be unable to react again. His heart was beating faster than ever. His aura wasn't stable at all. By the time he reacted, his waist had already been grabbed by the other party. But in front of a kiss, all of this seemed unimportant. Lin Feng had to admit that this guy's kissing skills were too good. Perhaps it was not only his kissing skills, but also the flames that were ignited wherever his hands touched seemed to be inextinguishable. A numbing sensation could be felt from his tailbone. Beneath him was the soft bedding. When the watch on his wrist was pressed against him, Lin Feng shuddered. His vitals were being held by someone else. Lin Feng just said, "Don't." The man leaned over and his voice missed his face, hitting the back of his ears again and again. You like it? Indeed he liked it. No one would dislike being treated like this. It was a completely different feeling from his own hands. Lin Feng couldn't describe it. He only felt his thoughts drifting away. He didn't have the ability to think anymore. Not to mention the matter of taking the initiative and not taking the initiative. Between his fingers, the scent was the temperature he could feel the most. And the heat that hit his shoulder when he lowered his lids. The temperature in the entire room rose. Lin Feng didn't have the chance to see his face. At the start he didn't want it. But now he wanted him to stay a little longer. Jianghu's eyes dimmed. He seemed to be enduring something. When the kiss landed on the side of his ear, he didn't forget to reach for something. At this moment, Lin Feng was really floating. Both his eyes were looking at the ceiling. His body was still in the most numbing warmth. All of a sudden, he lifted her up in his arms. In that instant, it wasn't that he didn't feel pain. Lin Feng's eyes widened in an instant. He said, F***ck. He wanted to push him away. Jianghu also stopped at this moment. The sweat on his forehead was more than ever. I'm sorry, I probably can't stop. Lin Feng's eyes widened again. The next moment he could feel the other party's kiss landing. But he didn't have the slightest intention of stopping. Not only that, there was even a feeling that he was going to be engulfed entirely. After this thing got used to it, he didn't know why, but what came surging was more numbness. Lin Feng's entire body was soft. It was as if he was fished out of the water. His thoughts were all jumbled up. But it was his voice beside his ear. You're right. This model is really useful. Lin Feng felt the strength from the other party. There was something mixed in it. It actually stimulated more numbness. Lin Feng recalled the mysterious words his boss had said to him. Try it on your boyfriend. There will be unexpected effects. Now, Lin Feng finally experienced what that effect was. He wanted more. Yun, who also realized that this thing was different from the one he usually used. He only paused for a moment before he didn't restrain his strength anymore. In the full-length mirror, one could see a fair-skinned, handsome man being held by another man at the waist from behind. As his black hair fell, the man looked as if he could not take it anymore and arched his neck. Chapter 1537. After escaping, Lin Feng didn't go anywhere. He went straight back to the Lin family's house. With the marks on his body, he definitely wouldn't be able to go to the construction site. It was obvious that his waist and legs weren't feeling well. Moreover, his throat was dry. Yun, who hadn't intended to let him have a good sleep yesterday, at this thought, Lin Feng pulled the blanket over his head. If it had been him, he wouldn't have let him have a good sleep either. But if it had been him, he wouldn't have let him have a good sleep either. Everything was different now. He just found out that Yun, who was born in the year of the dog. The type of dog that looked like a wolf puppy. It was a popular term nowadays. Lin Feng had never imagined that there would be a day when he would use this term on Yunhu. He didn't have a fever. Lin Feng realized that his body was clean when he woke up. It must have been after he fainted last night. Yunhu had carried him to shower. Lin Feng tightened his grip again. His face was hot. Perhaps it was because the aura that had been branded on his body was too strong. Even now, Lin Feng felt as if he could hear that guy's low panting next to his ear as soon as he closed his eyes. He could also hear that deep voice and heat, F***ck. Lin Feng moved, intending to stand up and take a shower. However, it was also at this moment. His cell phone rang in his pocket. It was a message from Little Spade asking daily, "How was yesterday? Did you take down Almighty Yun?" When she sent this message, she was sitting in the team's canteen, supporting her chin lazily. Ever since they had recruited new members, the Qin group had specially set up a small canteen for the young trainees to have a balanced diet. After all, as esports gained recognition, the age of the trainees was getting younger. At first, Bojio didn't mind since she liked to sleep. In school, she would lie on her desk without hesitation to catch up on her sleep since hackers operated at night. She would naturally feel sleepy during the day. Bojio had intended to find a place to sleep while the trainees ate. Just then, she saw the small figure holding a steamed bun in his hand. There was a cup beside him which seemed to be filled with hot water. He was reading while munching on the steamed bun and drinking the hot water. There wasn't a single expression on his fair and clear face. It was probably because she was still underage and she was small to begin with. Bojio found the little kid extremely adorable. Her hand paused for a moment before she perked up. She stuffed one hand into her pocket, her silver hair falling down. She kept her phone, picked up her plate and walked towards the little figure. Little Mo Bei was originally swallowing a bun, but when she saw the person sitting opposite her, her ears reddened for some reason. Bojio arched a brow. "How can you just eat steamed buns? When I was your age, I would eat 5 steamed buns with bean meat." Little Mo Bei was about to speak. The man picked up the chopsticks, picked up a piece of egg and brought it to her mouth. Little Mo Bei's eyes drifted a little, but there was no expression on her face. Bojio smiled lazily. "Little Mo Bei, what are you waiting for? Come, open your mouth." No one would reject their idol, including Little Mo Bei. However, just as she opened her mouth and swallowed the food in one mouthful. Chapter 1538. Just as Little Mo Bei was suspecting if she had seen wrongly, Qin Mo walked towards them. He reached out and pulled Bojio's collar from the back. "Don't force a child to eat things she doesn't like." Bojio tilted her head and her gaze changed. Then she looked at the person in front of her. "Little Mo Bei doesn't like eggs?" Little Mo Bei looked at her captain's gaze and then at her idol's face, which could make one's ears turn red. Her voice was cold and serious. "I like it." "Then eat more." Bojio picked up another piece of egg and passed it over. Qin Mo narrowed his eyes. He didn't say anything, but the cold aura from his body made his assistant, who had come over, push his spectacles up the bridge of his nose. Was young master jealous? Actually, he wasn't jealous. But in the past, a certain someone had always accompanied him. Now, he seemed to be overly concerned about the child in front of him. Bojio indeed treated Little Mo Bei differently. After all, at the start, if it wasn't for this child, she wouldn't have been able to enter so quickly. Moreover, the child's aura was similar to Qin Mo's when he was young. Bojio would definitely be more concerned about her. But after caring for her, she realized that this child was different from others. She was always alone. She would spend the least amount of money on food. She didn't like to talk. When she practiced, she was more hardworking than anyone else. Playing esports was indeed a test of whether a person had the talent in this area. Not everyone who liked to play games was suitable for this industry. Some people were born to play well. And no matter how much they practiced, they would still be the same in the end. Hence, when some people gave up their studies to play esports, they had to consider carefully. After all, this industry wasn't suitable for everyone. Did they have the mental capacity to handle it? Did they have the talent? Did they know what was the most important thing in gaming? How fast their hands were and how good their judgment was. This was also the reason why Supreme Alliance would go through layers of screening when they recruited. Even if this method of selection would make people say that Supreme Alliance didn't treat them well after they got the first place, they would still use this method to screen. Every industry had its bright and beautiful side. Similarly, there was a side that wasn't known to people. Even Supreme Alliance wouldn't be liked by everyone. Those who hadn't made a name for themselves were either idolizing or waiting for Supreme Alliance to fall. Hence, when he found out about Supreme Alliance's recruitment conditions, he would mock them. After mocking them, he would say, "Let's stop here in case Supreme Alliance's fans say that their eyes are sore. I really like playing esports. It doesn't matter if I'm popular or not, I'm just playing. I just can't stand it when some people start to look down on ordinary people after getting first place. What a joke." Words like that would definitely spread among the trainees. Bojio had been on duty for the past 2 days and had heard such discussions. He also knew that some of them felt that they weren't valued enough and were wondering if they should join Supreme Alliance. When Bojio heard this, she leaned against the wall and smiled. She didn't seem to care who stayed and who left. But just as she was about to leave. Chapter 1539. What does a child like you know? Some people join just because they like it. The trainees seem to have found the little kid an eyesore. You go wherever you want to go. You don't have any expression the entire day. You are so arrogant. Didn't you get recruited just because you showed your skills during the internal competition? We are different from you. We have worked hard to get to where we are now, unlike you who have never experienced any setbacks. You just need to build a good relationship with Almighty Z. You imitate other people's playstyles and you don't have anything of your own. A woman shouldn't be the vice captain. Even Almighty Z disappoints us when it comes to choosing people. Why did he choose someone like you? What a joke. Almighty Z chose me because I play better than all of you. If you can't take this lying down, you can challenge me to a duel. But I know that people like you who gossip behind people's backs will always be like this. You talk about how hard you work, but your focus will never be on esports. If you really like it, you would have gone to practice a long time ago. You shouldn't be here gossiping and saying that your eyes aren't sore. I'll still say the same thing. If you don't want to win, you can play for fun. Why are you playing professionally? Everyone who joins a professional team wants to stand at a higher position and no one wants to lose. You join because Supreme Alliance is famous and you want more people to know about it. What's the point of saying such things? Please, we aren't like you. We only want to be popular. The little figure's expression was still indifferent. Different from me? I am indeed different from all of you. What I want is simple, I want to win. I want Supreme Alliance to always stand at the top and not be pulled down by anyone. This is my motive for playing professionally. At the same time, I can earn money to support myself. For those who have never thought of entering the National League, it is better not to neglect their studies. After all, only those who have walked the path of esports know how difficult it is. Isn't it normal for Supreme Alliance to reject me? You are mocking us not because you don't want to be popular but because you know you won't be able to be the first in the advancement competition. What a joke. Do you think we are like you, lacking money so much that we have to prove ourselves? Forget it, I'm not talking to a retard. The little figure glanced over. Since you know I'm a retard, don't create a Smurf account here and talk about Almighty Z as a fan. From Bojio's angle, she could clearly see his face turning green. He probably hadn't expected the little figure to know his secret. His expression changed instantly. The little figure retracted her gaze. This isn't a world where you can climb up just because you pull someone down. Chinamo spoke again, his emotions calm. After you enter university, we'll go to the 5th Avenue and stay there. There won't be any messy people that you need to feed. It'll be convenient for you to prepare for pregnancy. Bojio wanted to ask Brother Mo if he was actually jealous. But the Almighty lowered his head and kissed her lips. His breath lingered at the tip of her nose. She could still hear his voice faintly. In the future, if you want to feed someone, consider your husband, Mrs. Qin. Bojio smiled, her silver hair moving slightly. Alright, but Brother Imo, you're always so jealous. In the future, when we really have our own children, you won't be jealous of the child, right? Qin Imo lowered his lids, his thin lips landing on her face. His emotions were still calm. That depends on whether he knows how to behave. Yunhu's voice was still calm. The moment I opened my eyes, you were gone. I thought I had a dream yesterday. After all, I'm used to having such dreams all these years. Lin Feng stretched out his hand to push her away, but when he moved, he suddenly pulled his waist, causing him to stiffen in pain. Yunhu noticed his discomfort and placed his fingers on the back of his waist. That action seemed to wrap around Lin Feng's entire body. Lin Feng only felt that the temperature on his face was getting hotter, but the strength of the kneading was just right. It was really a case of a tiger being bullied by a dog. If they were to do it again, he would definitely not be suppressed. The next time he saw the boss of that shop, he would definitely ask him to give him something more normal. He shouldn't give him anything that had a hastening effect. If it wasn't for that thing, he wouldn't have been so helpless. What a blunder. That's right, it was a blunder. Lin Feng would never admit that he wasn't as skilled as someone else. Let me get it back next time. When Yunhu heard this, he arched a brow. There seemed to be a hidden smile at the corner of his lips. Sure. Next time? This kind of thing should be based on ability. This fellow didn't seem to understand his position. But it didn't matter. As for Yunhu, he was very supportive of Lin Feng's wish. But usually, only things that would never come true would be called a wish. Go to the bed. When Lin Feng heard these words, he took a huge step back. F***ck, what do you want me to do on the bed? Apply the ointment. Yunhu looked at that person, his voice faint. What else do you think I want to do? Lin Feng was slightly embarrassed. After a moment he said, don't say such ambiguous words in the future. Just apply the ointment. Yunhu glanced at him. Okay. Lin Feng was still a little uncomfortable. After that person touched the ointment, he wanted to rub it on his neck. To reduce the swelling. Lin Feng thought to himself, you still know that when you kiss someone you don't care about your life. But he didn't say it directly. Instead, he insisted on doing it himself. Yunhu didn't say much and placed the ointment in his palm. He glanced at the messy bed again. A certain someone must have been pretending just now. How was it possible that he was playing games? Yunhu glanced over, his gaze landing on Lin Feng again. Lin Feng didn't know what to do under that gaze. But he heard him say, take off your pants. This time Lin Feng didn't act rashly. Why would I take off my pants? What do you think? Yunhu reached out and pressed down on his back. There's a place where I can help you apply the ointment. It's more convenient. Lin Feng watched as the angular face got closer and closer to him. It was so close that he didn't even have a chance to resist. He could only cover himself with the blanket. Even the back of his neck was red. He didn't even look at the person sitting beside his bed. After that, Lin Feng did sleep for a while. But when it was time for dinner, Mother Lin definitely came up to rush them. Hey, after Hu Zi came, you even recovered from your illness? Lin Feng didn't say anything. Beauty, I'm forcing myself. After all, I have to eat with you. Don't be talkative, come down and eat. Mother Lin went downstairs happily. Lin Feng. His words were flippant and Yunhu's words were sensible. Did his mother really speak based on bloodline? He hadn't eaten much since last night. Lin Feng was hungry. When he saw the table full of dishes, he couldn't control his chopsticks. Potato spicy chicken, chopped red pepper fish head, steamed lotus root, these were all his and Yunhu's favorite dishes. His mother usually found it troublesome to cook and never did it. She was really her own son. Lin Feng cursed in his heart. He lowered his head and planned to eat to his heart's content. But he didn't know what was wrong with Yunhu. Wherever he extended his chopsticks, Yunhu would stick his chopsticks there as though he was going against him. When he wanted to pick up a piece of chicken, Yunhu snatched the food from his chopsticks for the third time. Lin Feng was about to get angry. Yunhu placed a green vegetable in his bowl. You aren't feeling well. Don't eat such spicy food. Mother Lin thought that Yunhu was talking about the flu. Who was right? Go and get yourself a bowl of soup. Lin Feng remembered the information he had researched online. For example, as a qualified attacker. After waking up the next day, he had to make porridge or soup for the person on the bed. At that time, he had planned to be gentle and considerate in front of Yunhu. Now he was the one drinking the soup. Lin Feng's mood was obvious. In front of the table of food he liked, he couldn't eat anything. It was really depressing. Moreover, Jianghu was going to sleep here today. Even though it was still a little early to sleep, Lin Feng would be reminded of the previous night whenever he saw the bed or the way Jianghu rolled up his sleeves. It was still awkward. Mother Lin also noticed that her son was unusually quiet today. She didn't know if it was because of the flu. When she passed the fruit to Jianghu, she said, "Ask him if he has anything on his mind recently." Jianghu took the fruit plate and said, "He probably isn't feeling well. He will be fine tomorrow." "Is that so?" Mama Lin breathed a sigh of relief. "I thought he was unhappy about the blind date." Jianghu paused. "Blind date? It's a business cooperation company. It's also an old friend who works with the Lin family frequently." Mother Lin said, "The other party said that his granddaughter is a fan of Lin Feng and has always wanted to meet him. She has a good impression of Lin Feng and recently he has decided to let the two of them meet. This way it would be convenient for them to discuss business. Speaking of which, I don't want to see Lin Feng running around like this. The Lin family doesn't lack money, but you should understand that it can't be compared to the past. Some people are now keeping a respectful distance from Lin Feng, probably because they are afraid that Lin Feng will ask them for help. These people still don't understand Lin Feng. You grew up with him and you should understand that he won't ask for help unless he has no other choice. Besides, the Lin family hasn't reached the point where it has to ask anyone for help. In the past few years, I haven't been controlling Lin Feng. He can do whatever he wants because he said he likes to play games. Before you went overseas, he talked to me and said that he would retire after the Asian Cup. He is now preparing for this. As his mother, I can tell that even though he looks like that, he will be able to shoulder all the responsibilities when the Lin family really needs him. But there's something, Jianghu, you have to tell him that even though his grandmother and I are the only ones left in the Lin family, it doesn't mean that all the responsibilities will fall on his shoulders. He can do whatever he wants to do. He can play sports for another 2 years. Both his father and I looked forward to him coming into this world. Our initial hope was for him to walk the path he wanted to walk. The more Jianghu listened, the deeper his gaze became. It was so deep that he couldn't find his footing. It wasn't that he didn't feel guilty towards Mother Lin. But compared to the guilt, he really couldn't leave that person. Basically, the happiness that all parents could think of was to see their children get married and have children. This would never happen to Lin Feng again. If it really happened, Jianghu didn't know what he would do. Chapter 1542. Jianghu was about to speak. But when he looked up, he saw the figure standing at the staircase. He shook his head at him. It was very slight, but it made Jianghu understand that today wasn't a suitable day to confess anything. But it was precisely because he understood that he tasted something bitter in his mouth. It was the same taste from the tip of his tongue to his heart. Jianghu watched as the figure turned and walked back to the room. He said a few comforting words to Mother Lin. In reality, he didn't even know what he said in such a state. Just like what Mother Lin said, others might not understand Lin Feng. But he knew better than anyone else. That person appeared to be carefree, but he knew what responsibility was more than anyone else. Even now, Jianghu could still remember that stubborn look. Both of them weren't tall when they were young and they were often bullied. Speaking of which, he had always stood in front of him. It wasn't because of how strong he was at that time, but because he would always say to those people, "Don't bully me." Even if he couldn't beat him, he would still say that. At the start, Jianghu felt that he was stupid. He looked like a little bun, but he still stood in front of him. Didn't this guy know how to run first? He had asked someone before. In the end, a certain someone opened his eyes wide. "If I leave, who will protect you?" It seemed to have been from that time. Jianghu felt that he had a very important person. He was 5 or 6 years old, but he only wanted that person to accompany him. Who was the one who said that when we came into this world, we were all lonely individuals? This feeling couldn't be erased. Even if you had parents who loved you, in the dead of night you still want to be alone. Someone who was good to you. Lin Feng had never been a person with stable results since he was young. But every time, in order to be in the same class as him, he would always work harder than anyone else. Everything you get is not meant to be in your hands. Even if in the eyes of many people, it was good to have a good life. But when you had a good life, you wanted friends, even someone who was more than a friend. When he was young, he didn't want to be a lover. He was not that good at first awakening of love. But compared to being a lover, he wanted to be with the other party for the rest of his life. This thought existed countless times. Hence, Jianghu was afraid. He was afraid that Lin Feng would shrink back because of some responsibility. Hence, when he entered with the fruit platter, Jianghu didn't say a word. He pressed her against the wall and kissed her lips fiercely. However, Lin Feng didn't continue pestering him. Instead, he used his strength and said in a deep voice, "Even if lightning strikes you, you're not allowed to regret it. Lin Feng, you slept with me, so you have to take responsibility." Lin Feng paused for a moment before cursing. Since it was inconvenient for him to move, he could only hold his forehead and growl, "You were the one who slept with me. Don't go overboard." Jianghu didn't linger on the topic. Instead, he lowered his head, his voice calm. "I won't let you go on a blind date. If you really go, I'll destroy all your relationships just like how I did in school. I'll snatch whoever you like. You should understand that it's easy for me to do that." When Lin Feng heard this, his mouth opened and closed. "You did it on purpose then?" "Yes." Yunhu's eyes dimmed. He seemed to have gambled everything. It didn't matter if he was confident or self-centered. It didn't matter if he dragged this person into the most difficult path. He couldn't let go. In the past, he could still tell himself that it was fine as long as he stayed by his side. However, when he truly obtained someone and tasted the sweetness, he would understand that seeing him happy was nonsense. Only he could give him his happiness. Lin Feng watched the expression of the person in front of him. A sense of familiarity slowly came over him. He remembered when he had seen Jianghu reveal such an expression. It was the first time he went to KFC with a girl he had feelings for. Back then, they did their homework on the second floor of KFC. Unlike now, high school students could still go to coffee shops. After finishing their homework, he had to treat her to a meal. In the first year of high school, he had already started to want to play games. Hence, he was very interested in the big players in the shopping mall. Moreover, that girl wanted to play too. They went upstairs after their meal. At first, there wasn't much. After that, he grabbed a doll and gave it to the girl. The girl blushed and hugged him. At that time, Lin Feng was a little confused. Before he could react, he saw Jianghu. That person wasn't wearing the school uniform. That person wasn't wearing the school uniform, but the Supreme Alliance's uniform. He just stood there, one hand in his pocket, looking at him without a word. Lin Feng felt awkward at that time. After all, when he was young, he would feel shy when his best brother saw him with a girl. Moreover, Jianghu had sent him a message asking where he was. His reply was that he would be back soon. But it had been more than an hour since Jianghu's message. Lin Feng originally wanted to call out to Jianghu, but that person didn't seem to see him. He turned and left. Lin Feng remembered that was Jianghu's expression at that time. After that, the girl sent him messages every day. Then she sent him a message every 3 days in a week. Occasionally, when she was bored, she would send him a message. Lin Feng only wanted to join the team. He didn't think much about this aspect. But he didn't say that he didn't care. He still wanted to pick a gift for that girl's birthday. But on that day, Jianghu brought a girlfriend back. It was that girl. Lin Feng was indeed a little dumbfounded. Chapter 1543. Lin Feng didn't know what expression to show anymore. The Yun family will definitely arrange a blind date for you. Compared to me, Jianghu, shouldn't you think about it more? You're the only child in the Yun family and you're in a different industry. You should know if you're suitable for me. In the past, you said you liked me but you never let me come into contact with your circle. When you went overseas, I did some research. Many people like men while harming women. How many girls have been married without realizing it? How many people still think they're forced to live this way because they want to carry on the family line? I can't understand it. If it was me, liking men is liking men. Who asked me to like you? You're a man. I won't harm any other girl. Even if I end up alone, I won't be forgiven by my mother. I will be like this and perhaps disappoint my mother. When I was young, she asked me what kind of wife I wanted to marry. My grandmother doted on me and gave me everything I wanted. If I wanted to play esports, she would let me play esports. If I said I would stay in school for another year, she would let me stay. I was even a little afraid of telling them what kind of relationship I had with you. My mother has always been open-minded, but even the most open-minded parent would cry after hearing this news. I've let her down the most in my life. Now that the Lin family has fallen, it's because I've acted according to my own personality. I want to continue playing esports, but it's no longer suitable. My hand speed can't keep up and I can't put all my heart into it. I'm not afraid of the netizens saying that Lin Feng can't do it anymore or that you're a disappointment. I'm not afraid of that. I'm afraid that I won't be passionate about what I'm doing now. Besides, my mother and grandmother need me. I understand that my mother is good in business and most people can't do anything to her. But I hope that I'll be the one attending the necessary social gatherings. I might never be able to get married and have children to fulfill her wishes, but I want to take on some responsibilities. If I really start a relationship, I'll be especially busy. Can you take it? I'll probably be discussing projects everywhere. I might even pretend to be a grandson, or I'll only have money in my eyes. When that happens. Chapter 1544. The sudden flirtation made Lin Feng cough. I don't need you to tell me that I'm handsome. Jianghu smiled and didn't say anything else, but his gaze was still on his face. Lin Feng turned his head, the back of his ears still a little red. After seeing her tomorrow, I will tell Fox Feng that I plan to retire in 2 days. In the future, I will have to manage the company and attend classes at school. I won't have time to join the team anymore. But I'm still very happy. At least I can stay until the recruitment. When I saw Little Mo Bay, it was like seeing Luo, Little Spade, and Captain. Talent really exists. The Supreme Alliance wouldn't just disband, right? When he reached the end of his sentence, Lin Feng lowered his head slightly. When his black hair fell down, it covered his eyes. No one seemed to like mentioning the word retire. If it was possible. They all wanted to play one more match. Even the sounds of mockery could be heard. Every match would be extremely stressful. But after so many years, he seemed to be used to it. There was a group of people who had always been with him. From when he was a minor to when he was an adult, and from when he was ignorant, he grew up to be a man with sharp features. If it was possible, he really didn't want to disband. Mitch, Jianghu replied faintly as though he was saying it to himself. It won't. He knew very well that Lin Feng made this decision. Between esports and him, he chose him. He gave up playing esports for another 1.5 years to take on all the responsibilities of the Lin family. But it was to repay the debt they owed. Jianghu couldn't get rid of Lin Feng's guilt. Nothing else happened that night. Even though Lin Feng's heart was beating fast. But more than that, he felt comfortable with the existence of another person. The two of them slept on the same bed, their heads leaning against each other, just like how they used to do homework and train at the same time. At that time, they were also trainees of the Supreme Alliance. They just wanted to participate in the competition one day. Now, everything seemed to be perfect. The next day, Lin Feng received a message from Bojio. There was only one sentence. Guess if I believe what you said, Flower Lin? Lin Feng lowered his head and snapped a photo of Jianghu in an imposing manner. He sent it over. He's still on my bed and I'm already awake. I don't think I need to elaborate on the rest. After sending the message, Lin Feng took out a suit. He planned to go to the company to attend a meeting as a low-level manager after the meal with the woman. However, just as he was about to take off the t-shirt, the person behind him suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of deep, black eyes. You're awake so early? Jianghu's voice was low and hoarse, probably because he had just woken up. Lin Feng's hands were a little hesitant. He didn't know why, but it wasn't like he hadn't changed in front of this guy before. Why did it feel so awkward now? It was as if his back was being burned by someone's gaze. Even his face was burning. Forget it, who cares? Lin Feng grabbed the hem of his shirt with both hands and quickly dug his head out. The t-shirt was still hanging on his arm. He felt the footsteps getting closer and closer to him. There was a faint sense of a powerful existence. But before he had the time to look back. Chapter 1545. It was a kiss. It was like a light breeze. But it made Lin Feng's shoulders tremble. His hands turned soft and his neck turned red. F***ck, what are you doing? Kissing you. Jianghu didn't stop because of his anger. Instead, he moved his lips up 1/2 inch and placed it behind his ear. Lin Feng didn't know what expression to make. His waist was hugged from behind and he was about to be kissed again. Who could take it? He was almost getting a reaction from the kiss. Jianghu noticed the change in him. He chuckled softly. It was a little deep and he took a step closer. Lin Feng reached out and pushed him away. He took off his t-shirt and threw it to the side. Don't act like a hooligan in the morning. Hooligan? Jianghu looked at him, his gaze deep. Boss Lin, who is going to come back in 2 days, it shouldn't be a problem for you to face such a kiss. The words Boss Lin successfully made Lin Feng happy. He put on the white shirt, his aura high. Of course it's not a problem. Since it's not a problem, why don't you kiss a little longer? Jianghu had already placed his arm by his side. His right hand was supporting himself against the wardrobe. He tilted his head slightly and with a tilt of his eyes, he kissed Lin Feng. Such a space was more suitable for doing bad things. Even the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Each sound was louder than the one before. Lin Feng had that feeling again. The air seemed to have been sucked out of him. His feet felt light and his heart was beating so fast that it made him blush. He could hear the sound of clothes rubbing against each other. Lin Feng. You're getting a reaction. That light chuckle was like a fire that was sprinkled over him. It was so hot that Lin Feng couldn't think. Yun, who originally wanted to leave a mark on this person, especially since he was going out to meet a girl. He was very clear about a certain someone's charm. Usually his face looked like a little puppy. But with his height, long legs and narrow hips, he would be popular on any live streaming app. He was the type that young girls liked. Not to mention the way he looked when he wore a white shirt, a suit and a watch. Yun, who admitted that he was jealous. Hence, she didn't even hold back, and the kiss on Lin Feng's neck was exceptionally deep. Sometimes Lin Feng felt that it was inconceivable. He was clearly a straight man of steel. How could he have fallen for her seduction so quickly? Did Yun Hu secretly learn something behind his back? Or perhaps, Lin Feng took advantage of the gap and raised his eyes, slightly panting. Where did you learn all this from? Does Hatsune know all this? Yun Hu paused for a moment. Then he chuckled lightly and placed his right hand on his thigh. What? Jealous? Eat your sister's vinegar, I was just casually asking. Lin Feng's eyes fluttered. It's the same the last time I saw you. You're starting to go to those kinds of places. I just feel a little unfamiliar. Yun Hu lowered his body slightly as though he was whispering into Lin Feng's ear. Indeed, people often send people to my place and there are many entertainment venues, but I haven't touched any of them. With a cream cake like you around, I don't want to eat cake crumbs. Chapter 1546. Why don't you let me enjoy it now, almighty Lin Feng? Yun Hu said, lowering his lids. Only then did Lin Feng realize that his leg had been lifted by this person. He took a step back and was pushed against the wardrobe. Some of the clothes inside slid off the hanger, making noises. It was probably because such a secret space made it easier for the active party to take action. Before Lin Feng could feed the other party, his breath was snatched away once again. This time the force was much greater than the last time. It was as though he wanted to swallow him whole. Even his breath was hot. It was said that men used their bodies to think. Lin Feng didn't believe it at first. But now he believed it. Because sometimes there was no time to think. It was too hot, too erect, so he wanted the other party to help. Most importantly, Yun Hu wanted him to show this side. When he lifted the corner of his lips, there was a hint of blackness. Just meet, no more than an hour. After you're done, call me, I'll wait for you nearby. Even if she's pretty, you can't have a good impression of her. After this ends, delete her WeChat. Yun Hu, damn you, is this the time to talk about this? Lin Feng's body was so hot that he just wanted relief. But the person who was controlling him stopped at this moment. Yun Hu blocked his hand, his voice calm. If you agree, I'll serve you. You should know that it's better if I help you. F***ck. Lin Feng was going crazy, his handsome face blushing slightly, his breath hot. I agree, just meet, delete my WeChat when I come back. Yun Hu hugged the person who seemed to have been scooped out of the water. He used strength, lowered his lids and kissed his neck. Only he could see him like this. His emotions were aroused and his handsome appearance was revealed. Only he could see him. Other people. Be it men or women. He couldn't stand it. Who could see him like this? Yun Hu lowered his gaze as though he was saying something in Lin Feng's ear. Lin Feng opened his eyes and then, as though he was released, he leaned back into the wardrobe, the heat still lingering on his body. But because of the other party's breath, the words were extremely clear. I like you, Lin Feng, I like you. It really was. Lin Feng raised his arm and pressed down on his bangs. If that was the case, it wouldn't make sense if he didn't respond. Me too. Yun Hu, who was kissing his left shoulder, suddenly paused. His gaze wavered and suddenly became unfathomable. Lin Feng's half-bent leg froze because that thing was too obvious. Hey, it's so early in the morning, you. Yun Hu pressed him down and didn't move. Instead, he whispered in his ear, you did it on purpose, didn't you? You knew the timing wasn't right, that's why you flirted with me. I'm just replying to you. Lin Feng opened his mouth. Who knows? Did you take some medicine? Chapter 1547. F***ck. Lin Feng interrupted Yun Hu. After recovering his strength, he pulled his collar over with one hand. If you dare to do that, I'll cripple you. Yun Hu chuckled lightly. I haven't waited for 5 years. Lin Feng wanted to say something. Yun Hu glanced over and planted another kiss on his lips. You can do it now if you want. This state is good. Lin Feng dispersed the heat on his body. Good, my asterisk, I haven't pressed it back. Then should I press it back now? Yun Hu stretched his hand over. Just then there was a knock on the door. Then he pushed the door open. Lin Feng's entire body froze. Yunhu's reaction was fast. He closed the wardrobe. Then he turned his head. It was Mother Lin, but she didn't enter. She opened the door and said, "Go down for dinner." "Where's Lin Feng? Isn't he up yet?" Yunhu blocked the door and smiled. "He's in the bathroom." Mother Lin nodded and said, "I made your favorite egg noodles." Yunhu placed one hand behind his back. "I'll go wash up and go down immediately." Mama Lin said, "Okay." Then she went downstairs happily. As a strong woman, she didn't cook at home often, but since the children were around, she was willing to cook for herself. Yunhu really went to wash his hands. After he was done, he said to the gloomy Lin Feng behind him, "It's all your stuff." Lin Feng really felt that this person deserved a beating. When he was brushing his teeth, he was thinking about pressing it back. The two of them left the door at the same time. Mother Lin told Yunhu to come over when he was free. Yunhu sat in the front passenger seat and glanced over. "I'll come and disturb Godmother often." "What do you mean by disturbing?" Mother Lin said. "It's our home." Lin Feng fastened his seatbelt and interrupted. "Amish, you've always been the one who kissed me. I'm the one who was picked up." Mother Lin smiled and didn't forget to remind Lin Feng. "Speak properly when you meet today. Don't be silly and learn from Yunhu, understand?" Amish. Lin Feng glanced up and thought for a moment. In the end, he didn't say the words that wouldn't end well. He started the car and didn't talk much along the way. When they got out of the car, Yunhu reached out to press on his right hand. "I'll change and come pick you up." "I know, hurry up and go in." Lin Feng could sense his uneasiness. Sometimes, he would think that he was pretty impressive to be able to make someone like Yunhu feel uneasy. The location of the meeting was a very high-end coffee shop. Lin Feng was not late. Instead, he arrived early. He ordered 2 drinks and paid the bill in advance. Just as Yunhu had said, he was too eye-catching in his suit and white shirt, especially when his collar was slightly unbuttoned. When he raised his arm to check his watch, he looked even more handsome. This made the girl who had just arrived blush. After taking a deep breath, he said, "God Lin." Lin Feng turned around and saw a girl standing there. He smiled and said, "Miss Liang, right? Shall we sit down and talk?" The girl was very excited. After all, this was not only the closest she had ever been to her Prince Charming, but it was also an opportunity for them to develop into a couple. She had prepared for so long, and now she let her grandpa do the talking. Just for this day. Chapter 1548. The girl stilled, her smile stiff, but she didn't want to give up just like that. She clenched her fists. "We'll know after we get to know each other, right? I've really liked you for a long time. I watch all your matches." "Since you watch every match, Liang, then you should know who I like." When Lin Feng said this, it was because he knew that Yunhu had been watching their competition and should have some understanding in this area. After all, it wasn't as if no one had paired him and Yunhu together online. The girl's expression changed. "Don't tell me that the rumors online are true. You and Almighty Yun, aren't you good brothers?" "We were indeed good brothers in the past, but now we're lovers." Lin Feng's gaze wavered, his expression turning serious. "I hope you can keep this a secret. As for the rest, I can't reply to Miss Liang, but thank you for always supporting and liking me." Swoosh. The girl seemed to lose control and stood up from the table. "You don't have to thank me because I won't like you in the future. I really didn't expect you to actually like men. What are you doing? Are you cheating our feelings?" Lin Feng finally realized that he had misunderstood something. "Miss Liang, you seem to have misunderstood." "Forget it, I'll take it as a misunderstanding." The girl grabbed her bag and walked out. Her previous liking was a joke to her. Since he liked guys, why didn't he admit it when his fans asked? He even hoped that she would keep it a secret. He was afraid that his image would crumble after everyone found out about him. The girl couldn't take it anymore, gossiping with her female friend. When Lin Feng had said those words, he hadn't expected what would happen next. He hadn't expected anyone to understand. In the end, he had been too naive. He had become stupid from playing games. That was why he didn't know his own position. Because of her identity, he didn't think it was a big deal. She would look at it rationally. But that wasn't the case. He had realized the problem when Yunhu had come to pick him up. At that time, Lin Feng hadn't been able to lift his spirits, but he hadn't shown it in front of Yunhu. After all, such things would happen frequently in the future. But the outcome was far from what he had imagined. The internet broke the news. A certain famous esports player is obviously gay, but he still went on a blind date. He's obviously cheating. Such a title would naturally attract people's attention. A large number of posts were asking, "Who is it? Who is it?" I really don't dare to say it. I'm afraid that my fans will tear me apart, so I'll just vaguely mention it. Everyone can guess. They used to be mediocre in games, but I don't know how they became a god. They probably relied on their CP to always appear in 2v2 matches, becoming this year's champion team. F***CK, that's impossible. When? Cloud. Is it Lin Feng or Yun Hu? My almighty Yun has always been very powerful, alright? Is that Lin Feng? Sounds like it. Impossible. God Lin would never do such a thing. Then go ask your God Lin whether he is gay or not. What a joke. Actually, I've long wanted to expose this Lin Feng. I heard that he was the one who came up with that thing earlier. That can't be. I always thought Supreme Alliance was good. Supreme Alliance isn't bad, but ever since I found out that he relied on his looks to make a living, I don't like him anymore. Gaming is a competition of skills, is it about looks? Almighty Lin was obviously joking. Can you guys talk about the same thing? Sure, ask him if he's gay. Such an incident would definitely spread quickly. Even the Qin group's building was filled with tabloids. Some of the trainees who had long disliked the selection system seized this opportunity. No matter who came to ask, they were full of dissatisfaction. Everyone's wish is to join the best team in the country, but this team appears to be one way in front of everyone and another way in private. Recruitment doesn't look at skills but looks. Who asked handsome people to attract more fans? That's fine, but what is this? The team doesn't look like a team at all, it's all personal. He even said that he would give every member a fair chance. Does he really think we don't know? Senior Lin wasn't considered good in the past, but he relied on almighty Yun to get in. How do we feel? Disappointed, really disappointed. Do you know how Lin Feng feels now? I don't know, he didn't join the team. He's probably thinking about how to do public relations. In reality, some people were wrong. Public relations had always been handled by Feng Yi and not the members of the team. It wasn't that Lin Feng didn't want to make things clear. Feng Yi only told him one sentence. I can't explain it clearly. The atmosphere in the team changed. Even little Mo Bei, who only ate steamed buns every day, could sense it. But it didn't seem to affect her training. Some of the people waiting downstairs had come to interview her. At that time, no one knew that this short-haired child would become the gaming genius Bei that everyone would chase after in the near future. Hence, the person who came didn't even turn on the camera and asked her what she thought about Senior Lin's appearance. These people probably didn't understand little Mo Bei's personality. Little Mo Bei only glanced at the person. She was carrying the keyboard, her face cold and noble. She didn't say a word. Right. She didn't say a word. That was why the people above had the chance to speak. When little Mo Bei heard those words, she retracted her short legs that were originally going up the stairs. She was about to rush over and say something. But she was pulled back by the figure standing at the corner. Under the dusk light, her silver hair and the long curve of her chin could be seen. Her handsome and evil face could be seen. She bent down and placed her finger on her thin lips, gesturing for her to keep quiet. It was Almighty Z. She looked very handsome. Little Mo Bei didn't understand. She followed Bojio silently for a period of time before stopping in her tracks. Bojio glanced over and smiled. Do you really want to say something? Mitch. Little Mo Bei replied. Chapter 1549. Hence, that night, Bojio brought little Mo Bei back to the Qin family. When Qin Mo saw the little figure following behind a certain someone, his hand that was unbuttoning his sleeves paused for a moment. Madame Zhang was delighted. Where did this little handsome boy come from? He looks really good. Little Mo Bei was still carrying her red keyboard. When she heard Madame Zhang's words, the back of her ears turned red. Bojio placed a hand on the little person's shoulder and smiled brightly. Haha, Madame Zhang, Bei is a girl. Little girl? Madame Zhang looked at little Mo Bei again. Look carefully, she is indeed much cuter than those naughty little kids. Right, Bei is very obedient, but her expression is a little cold. She looks just like Brother Mo when he was young, making people want to pinch her. When the little person heard this, she turned her head and saw the person's clear smile. It was very warm. Little Mo Bei wanted to look a little longer. Just then she saw their captain walking towards them. Even though she was wearing home clothes, her aura was still very strong. Little Mo Bei bowed and called out, Captain. Qin Mo replied faintly. He didn't say anything, but his gaze conveyed some meaning. He was probably telling her not to look at people she shouldn't look at. When little Mo Bei received that gaze, her little face was still expressionless. But in her heart she was thinking that the seniors were right. Captain's possessiveness towards Almighty Z was very obvious. Let's go, Bei. Let me observe your gaming habits from a close distance. Bojio still had a lazy smile on her face. Little Mo Bei nodded and followed behind Bojio obediently. When he saw this, Qin Mo narrowed his deep eyes and his long legs followed. Bojio originally wanted to teach Mo Bei alone. She didn't understand why the Almighty followed her in. He sat opposite them. His slender legs were slightly crossed and there was a magazine on them. Bojio looked up and glanced over. She didn't pay much attention and sat beside little Mo Bei, watching her enter the game. The adult and the child seemed to forget themselves when they started doing things. Especially when little Mo Bei understood Bojio's intentions. She reversed her position and used her second skill to charge forward, completing the counterattack. Bojio reached out and caressed her head. You're so smart. Come, Bebe, let's celebrate. Smile. Little Mo Bei hadn't moved. There was one person who couldn't sit still anymore. Was the Almighty. He reached out his hand to hold a certain someone's wrist. It's time to eat. Aunt Zhang prepared a lot of food for you. The moment Bojio heard about food, her dark eyes lit up. She turned towards the clock hanging on the wall and stretched lazily, her hair moving slightly. It's already so late, it's indeed time to eat. Little Mo Bei also stood up when she heard that and was planning to leave. Bojio pressed the little person onto the wooden chair. It's a good time to nourish your body today. You won't grow taller eating steamed buns. Madame Zhang's cooking is really good. Little Mo Bei couldn't reject her idol's passion and it seemed like the captain didn't say anything. Indeed, Qin Mo didn't care about eating. However, would a certain someone pay too much attention to this little bean? Qin Mo didn't say anything. After all, he had to consider the child's pride. Hence, little Mo Bei watched as Almighty Z was dragged away by the captain to wash her hands. Even during the meal, the captain was the one who placed the chicken wings in Almighty Z's bowl. The usually handsome and devilish Almighty Z seemed to only be in charge of eating. Little Mo Bei didn't expect Almighty Z to be like this at home. However, when Almighty Z was in front of the captain, she was much more relaxed. Even the smile on her face was different. Little Mo Bei didn't know how to describe it. She just felt that the atmosphere was very good. After the meal, the two of them walked into the study room to continue their training. Little Mo Bei felt that the things in the study room didn't match up. Half of the room was filled with books and most of them were related to psychology. On the other side there were 2 desktop computers and 4 laptops. There were also some unknown models on the floor. Later, when she went to drink water, she found out from Madame Zhang that the Qin family's study room didn't look like this in the past. The captain had emptied half the room for Almighty Z so that she could store her things. Little Mo Bei had never come into contact with matters of the heart. But when she was in middle school, she had seen her classmates having feelings for each other. She felt that the best kind of love was what the captain had for Almighty Z. He was such a cold and abstinent person, but he allowed another person to occupy his private area. Even the things placed in the study room didn't match the overall style. The captain would also allow Almighty Z to do as she pleased. Even the office table had candies. Little Mo Bei lowered her eyes. As a fan, she knew that Almighty Z liked to hold a lollipop in her mouth even when she was playing games. This candy should be prepared for Almighty Z. Because little Mo Bei was distracted, someone almost caught up to her in the game. Her mouse moved slightly. She touched Bojio's arm. That was when she realized that Almighty Z had fallen asleep. Just as little Mo Bei was hesitating whether she should speak, the captain walked over. The captain, who was sitting on the sofa, had already walked over. He bent over and carried Almighty Z. He looked at her calmly. That's all for today's training. If you have any problems in the future, you can look for me. Captain, do you feel that I'm taking up Almighty Z's time? Little Mo Bei mustered up her courage when she asked this question. Qin Mo glanced at the little person and said calmly, "It has nothing to do with time. You are taking up my time." Even though little Mo Bei had a poker face, she didn't know how to describe her expression at this moment. Qin Mo stood there with the person in his arms, his back facing her. His legs were slender and he glanced sideways. Even if she doesn't teach you, you should be able to fight 1 against 3. The genius newbie of the Supreme Alliance can't be called that for nothing. Little Mo Bei replied and carried her backpack. I will do my best. There is a document on the table. Qin Mo's tone was calm. Other than the official contract, there are some problems with your playing style. After reading it, don't look for her. When you are in the team, make her drink more water, understand? Little Mo Bei understood what her captain meant. Anyway, he didn't want her to look for Almighty Z privately. Then, when they were in the team, she would help him control Almighty Z. From that day onwards, Little Mo Bei was in charge of watching Bojio drink water. Of course, this was all in the future. And in the Qin family. Qin Mo had just bent over to place Bojio on the bed when she woke up. Her silver hair was a little messy from sleep. She reached out to rub her left eye lazily. I fell asleep? Where is Bei? Chapter 1550. The way he addressed her. Bojio didn't need to look at his addictive face to know that the Almighty was jealous again. She had assumed that the Almighty would use the excuse of bringing someone home for a meal to bully her. Unexpectedly, he pulled the blanket over her and pulled her into his arms, his voice calm. We'll talk after you wake up. He was coaxing her to sleep. Bojio really wanted to sleep since they were about to start. It didn't seem like her to read until 11 p.m. She was too hard-working. Bojio moved in Qin Mo's arms. Qin Mo arched a brow, his handsome face inching closer. You don't want to sleep? Then do something else. Bojio shut her eyes immediately. I just wanted to ask old Fox Feng how he is going to resolve Flower Lin's matter. He isn't going to resolve it. Qin Mo's gaze landed on one point, his eyes darkening. Lin Feng will announce his retirement tonight. Compared to what others say, the Lin family's opinion is more important to him. Bojio stilled. Retirement? Today? He was going to retire, but he brought it forward by less than a month. Qin Mo's gaze was calm. This time he has made up his mind and probably won't be so reluctant. It isn't a bad thing since he has to take some time to resolve his family's problems. MMH, Bojio replied, remaining silent. Sleep. Qin Mo lowered his lids, planting a kiss on her head. That was when Bojio realized that Lin Feng's retirement might be painful for her, but for the Almighty, it had a different meaning. They had worked hard together for 3 years. From Supreme Alliance's weakest point to where they were now. The people from the same generation as the Almighty were also retiring one after another. Bojio had expected the people around her to bring it up. But she hadn't expected it to be in such a manner. Lin Feng returned home late that day. He wasn't avoiding it, but he had to settle his other matters before meeting his mother and grandmother. Hence, not long after the incident. He had planned to tell Feng Yi that he wanted to retire. That was how Qin Mo knew about the news. As a manager, Feng Yi didn't agree with Lin Feng's decision to retire. If you choose to retire now, you won't be able to explain yourself. Think whatever you want. To be honest, it's a little annoying. Ever since I joined Supreme Alliance, it has been going back and forth. When Captain lost his memory, they told him not to come back because it would affect the competition. I didn't want to continue playing. It has nothing to do with anyone, it's just something I can't figure out. In the past, when esports wasn't accepted, I didn't feel this way. At that time, I hoped for the industry to be recognized. For this thought, I would often do stupid things. The all-star era of esports is coming. My personality isn't suited to be a public figure. This era isn't suitable for me, besides, my condition is deteriorating. With that, Lin Feng paused. You should have realized it a long time ago. Feng Yi didn't reply immediately, instead he turned to light a cigarette. After a few puffs, he tugged his collar open. This was the first time he revealed a tired smile, but it didn't change his aura. Yes, it isn't just you, the entire Supreme Alliance probably can't adapt. Young Master Qin has some thoughts in this regard. What thoughts? Lin Feng had a feeling the answer wasn't one he wanted to hear. Feng Yi glanced over, smoke swirling around him. Disband Supreme Alliance. Lin Feng froze. When did you start having this thought? We've discussed it before. Feng Yi seemed much more relaxed. Some of the analysis isn't wrong, there is a gap in Supreme Alliance. Logically speaking, all of you are considered old almighties in the industry. It is normal for you to retire, even young Master Qin. He can only last for a year, but a year is too short. Who will replace Uncle Ian? Who will replace you? And who can replace young Master Qin? Lin Feng opened his mouth, momentarily at a loss for words. I never expected Captain to have such thoughts. In a certain sense, his mission has long been completed. He didn't mention it because he was waiting for everyone to bring it up first. Feng Yi tilted his head, flicking the cigarette in his hand. Supreme Alliance has been on the decline since a long time ago. Many teams brought up many conditions, be it money or resources, just to poach him. Fortunately, he is Qin Mo and the Qin family doesn't lack money. He doesn't have to be like the other professional players, unable to make a decision. He stayed here and never thought of leaving Supreme Alliance. In the end, when the funds ran out, he invested. Feng Yi chuckled lightly. Actually, that person's motive for joining the professional team was very simple. He said that the person he was looking for liked to play games, so when he stood on the professional stage, he would always be seen by that person. Even until now, there are still people doubting his intentions for joining the industry, thinking that he didn't really love the industry. But so what? In my heart, he is the most qualified captain of Supreme Alliance. Lin Feng, do you remember what he said when you first joined the team? Lin Feng's fingers stilled. I remember it wasn't easy for Supreme Alliance to recruit. Yes, it wasn't easy. Firstly, I didn't have any connections. The Feng family's connections were all in the entertainment industry. Secondly, he was still a high school student. Other than him, Supreme Alliance didn't have any outstanding members. Compared to other big teams, they weren't even worth mentioning, but at that time he told Jianghu and me to join Supreme Alliance and that he would lead you into the National League. Lin Feng finished Feng Yi's sentence, a faint warmth in his heart. Feng Yi chuckled. Isn't it cool? Besides, regardless of what he promised you or me, he did it. Lin Feng lowered his lids slightly. Yes, he did it. Chapter 1551. Feng Yi stubbed out the cigarette on his finger. He stood there, dressed in a well-ironed suit as if he had never changed. All right, let's first announce your retirement. This kind of decision was received by almost everyone in the battle team, including Wuxia, who was watching Coco and the others eat instant noodles. The atmosphere quietened down in an instant. It seemed like it had reached this point. They wouldn't show it no matter what they encountered. Just silence. Coco was the same. Wuxia was the only one who spoke. I wanted to talk to Feng Yi about my retirement. It would be better to announce it at the same time. Coco's hand that was holding the plastic fork paused, then he replied, "Ouch." Shui Yaoyao buried her entire face, probably worried about what expression she would reveal. Feng Shang swiped his phone, his fingers tightening. Wuxiao lit a cigarette. That's normal. Even if he knew it was normal, he would have thought of it. But it was still a little hard to accept. The news had already been sent out. In an instant, good and bad comments came flooding in. Some said he couldn't bear to. Some said Lin Feng had a guilty conscience. The truth was just as Feng Yi had predicted. But regardless of the voices, at this moment, it didn't matter to Lin Feng. But things like snowballs would get bigger and bigger as they rolled. They started to explain what Lin Feng had done. Those who were gay were the first to be attacked. The rest were additional revelations. There wasn't a need to verify their authenticity. There were many fans standing below the company just wanting an explanation. The media came as well, knowing that today was the day Supreme Alliance would confirm the new members. Many trainees were waiting for this battle. Of course, they wanted to interview Lin Feng the most. No matter what Lin Feng said, it would be a topic. It was a pity Lin Feng didn't appear. Lin Feng wasn't worried about whether people would interview him or not. He was kneeling in front of the Lin family, looking at the figure sitting on the sofa, saying, "Mom, I'm sorry, I won't be able to let you have grandchildren in the future." Mother Lin had always been a professional dresser. At this moment, she took a deep breath. She didn't know how to describe her emotions since last night. It wasn't that Huzi wasn't good, she had watched him grow up. But she didn't understand. How did things turn out like this? I remember that you like girls. Feng, can't you change it? I know that you and Huzi grew up together and have a good relationship, but you are both too young. It is very likely that you will recognize the current relationship as something else. As Mama Lin said this, she met Lin Feng's eyes. How could she not understand her son? He was saying that he couldn't change. I can't accept it. Mama Lin reached out to support her head. Let's not talk about whether I can accept it or not. After your father passed away, your grandmother has been waiting for you to get married. I've been helping you hide this incident. I didn't let some of the Lin family's clients tell your grandmother, but how long can it be hidden? I'm sorry. It seemed like Lin Feng had nothing else to say other than this sentence. Mama Lin stood up. I have to go to the company. The Liang family is very angry. We have to renegotiate the contract. I'll go talk to him. Perhaps because he had been kneeling for too long, Lin Feng's long legs were a little bent when he stood up. Chapter 1552. Lin Feng's fingers paused and he didn't say anything. Looking at her son, Mother Lin took a deep breath. I'll tell them that my son went on a blind date to make it clear to Miss Liang that they aren't suitable and that he didn't want to lie. However, the Liang family can even reveal their personal secrets. In the future, the Lin family won't share any resources with the Liang family. Lin Feng's body trembled and he raised his head. His eyes flickered and he said in a hoarse voice, "Mom, you're so handsome. Don't be happy too early. I still can't accept you and Huzi." Mother Lin cried. "Why do the two of you make the family worry so much?" Lin Feng was most afraid of his mother crying. He was flustered for a while before he reached out and hugged her. "That's all. I won't let you worry about me anymore." Mother Lin didn't say anything else. Lin Feng also knew that it would take a long time for him to accept this. He also knew that he had a good mother. He was born in a very happy family. It was just that this was too hard to accept. If it was someone he didn't know, it would at most be a matter of sexual orientation. But once he becomes your dearest and most beloved, how could he accept it? It was because he was open-minded that he knew that this path was too difficult. Many people said that men and women were true love. But in reality, it was rare for men to have a sense of responsibility. Even if they had a fixed boyfriend, they would find someone else to play with. Needless to say, what would happen after feelings disappeared? Mother Lin wasn't afraid that the two of them would fall in love. She was afraid that they wouldn't love each other anymore. When Lin Feng heard this, he lowered his gaze. "I won't mess around and I won't find someone else to play with. If he feels that it's not fresh, then we'll break up. Even if it's hard, I won't regret taking this path." After listening to these words, Mama Lin completely understood that nothing would change. At the same time, as a mother, she felt that the child in front of her had really grown into a man who could bear the burden no matter what. After the mother and son finished talking, Lin Feng planned to go to Grandma Lin's place. Grandma Lin still lived in the old courtyard house. There was a huge locust tree in the courtyard. In Granny Lin's words, she didn't want to leave this place. Firstly, the elders were all here. Secondly, if she stayed here, she would always be reminded of the time when she was young. Lin Feng basically came here every day. Today, Grandma Lin was still waiting for her grandson to peel oranges for her. That brat from the Yun family had arrived. Granny Lin looked up. "What's going on? Are they fighting again?" There was a slight injury on Yunhu's forehead, but it wasn't from a fight. His father had smashed it with the jade pishio placed at home in a fit of rage. There was no fight. Yunhu smiled. "Firstly, if Grandma is really angry, you can vent your anger on me first. When he comes, you won't be so angry. Secondly, this matter is entirely my responsibility. He could have lived a normal life, but because of me, he has embarked on this path." When Granny Lin heard that, "If you are really angry, you can vent your anger on me first," she thought about the two of them when they were young. It was always the kid from the Yun family who stood in front of her grandson and got hit by her husband. At that time, her husband would always feel embarrassed. After all, he was hitting someone else. But anyone who saw them would know that these two children were really good friends. When her husband passed away, Granny Lin thought about it. Even if the Lin family retreated, many people would still appear. But Yunhu wouldn't change. As expected, it was usually her grandson who came first and Yunhu who came later. The things she ate and used were never short. Even the grandson of the Zhang family next door couldn't do this. Every time he came back, other than eating a meal, he wouldn't even touch his grandmother for a while. These two children always asked her to chase them away. However, at that time, Granny Lin thought that something had happened to these two children. After all, they were always at odds. Now, it seemed that it wasn't that they didn't want to take responsibility or let someone down. They both wanted to come over, so they came to her to confess. Granny Lin looked at Yunhu. "If I don't agree, will I become a stubborn old woman?" Yunhu's gaze paused for a moment before he smiled. "You are Lin Feng's and my grandmother, not a stubborn old woman. You have been smart since you were young." Granny Lin was still worried. Yunhu understood what the old lady meant. "I won't use my intelligence on him. When the time comes, I will help him to deal with others. Sometimes people were like children when they were old. Who knows if what you said is true or not? Then Granny, watch me. Don't let me do anything that will let him down." Yunhu lowered his head and started peeling oranges. Granny Lin looked at his unmoving posture and sighed. "I have always wanted a great-grandson. That's a little difficult." Yunhu and Lin Feng had completely different styles. His words were always practical. "But it's not impossible. I have already contacted my friends in the medical field. They can find a surrogate." "Surrogate?" Granny Lin asked. "Is that okay?" Yunhu's voice was very calm. "Granny, don't worry. Surrogate pregnancy is very common now. As long as both parties are willing, it's not a big deal. I have already arranged everything and sent the things to the other party." After saying this, he looked up. It's Lin Feng's surname. The first child's surname is Lin. The moment Lin Feng entered, he heard this sentence. He didn't walk closer, but he knew what Jianghu had done. He was still holding a bag of fruits in his hand. He stood there just like that. When Granny Lin saw her grandson, she didn't say much. Her eyes were red as she said, "Rascal, come over here." Lin Feng walked over and copied Jianghu's posture. He half squatted beside his grandmother. Granny Lin looked at the two of them. "I don't know anything else, but I do know one thing. Since the two of you have decided to be together, you have to live a good life. Don't be so scheming, understand?" "Okay. I will." Lin Feng was still a little confused. He didn't expect Granny to agree so quickly. But he still had to be punished. Granny Lin asked Lin Feng to accompany her these days. They went to the temple and then to his grandfather's grave. In this way, the two of them really couldn't go to the club anymore. It was about time. They also realized that the internal selection competition of the Supreme Alliance was about to begin. It was probably because too many things had happened recently. So the competition this time was different from last year. Compared to last year's grand occasion. This year, the Supreme Alliance didn't release any information about the contestants to the media. All the people could see was their game IDs. The core of this competition was to choose the 3 most qualified people from the trainees to become the official members of the Supreme Alliance. However, the voices asking for a reasonable explanation from the Supreme Alliance were already louder than the voices for the competition. There were also some people saying, the Supreme Alliance isn't too old. They used to be so arrogant, but now they don't even dare to say a word. I heard that they only choose people based on their looks because it's easy to gain fans. This competition probably isn't worth watching. I really admire them for using the competition for public relations. After seeing so many things, I'm completely disappointed in the Supreme Alliance. I blame myself for being blind. Chapter 1553. The more it was like this, the more valuable it was for an interview. Someone said that they wanted to give everyone the truth. That was why they waited below the team. This situation wouldn't change even if Lin Feng didn't appear. Originally, Supreme Alliance didn't allow some people to enter. But the 3 trainees who had been interviewed felt that they were protecting their fans and it wasn't a problem to invite some people in. Moreover, if they weren't guilty, why wouldn't the team face them? This match would be broadcasted live. The team members were all there. They were discussing the criteria to select the people who could become team members this time. First, it was the ability to cooperate with the team. Of course, the most important thing was the individual ability. Every team needed someone like the king of solo challenges. After selecting such a person, he would integrate into the team and improve their teamwork. This was a standard that the team would use when choosing members. But it was obvious that the 3 trainees didn't think so. They felt that the team was obviously biased in their selection. This wasn't the philosophy that Supreme Alliance had promoted previously. Didn't they say that a team was more important? Why were they always lying? The 3 trainees discussed it for a while and told the fans they brought in about the incident. The fans wanted an explanation. After hearing this, they were disappointed, sad, and a little angry. The trainees also felt the same way. If they were to follow this selection standard, the person who would get first place would definitely be that arrogant Bei. Why did they have to be suppressed by a little kid? Because she knew how to make Spade Z happy. Speaking of this, they were already disappointed in Spade Z. This time their goal was clear. After working hard for so many years, they couldn't be eliminated just like that. Since the 3 of them were a team, they would come up with a strategy. As long as they could pull the others to the last place. As time passed, the competition was starting. But at this moment, someone posted photos of Supreme Alliance on the internet, saying that there was a problem with the competition system. When Bojio and Coco walked over, the few people who had entered were still taking photos. Bojio stuffed a hand into her pocket and glanced down. She asked the assistant beside her, "Which department are they from?" "The internal department doesn't allow photos." "This I don't know." The assistant was confused. "I'll check." Bojio glanced over, her gaze landing on their faces. She said slowly, "There's no need to check, they aren't internal personnel." At this moment, those people saw Bojio and Coco. He turned his gaze over and walked over as well. The assistant wanted to stop him. But it was obvious that they couldn't stop it. If they called the security guards, then there would probably be more comments on the internet. For example, they didn't cherish their fans or the security guard of their idol pushed them, etc. Such news was innumerable. If it had been Bojio, she would have ignored him and walked away. But she was representing Supreme Alliance now, so she couldn't act according to her personality. It was quite depressing. Bojio stood there and didn't say a word. She lifted the corners of her lips, and when her gaze landed on the screens of their phones, there was a hint of mischief in her eyes. He probably understood the meaning behind this smile. Chapter 1554. Bojio tilted her head. The contents of the competition changed? When did that happen? What happened to the team spirit? Now it's an individual. Bojio glanced up. All of you seem to have misunderstood Supreme Alliance. Supreme Alliance's recruitment principle has always been, come, take a look at me, a monster that can kill in the game, or someone like the Almighty who can carry the entire game. That's what we want to see the most. If not, what's the point of the competition? We can just play at home. You? Forget it. He didn't want to continue. So many things have happened and you don't even know how to reflect. Bojio smiled. Coco wanted to say something but she stopped him. She wanted them to leave. But Coco knew it was useless. Compared to this, Bojio was more concerned about who brought the outsiders in. When he looked to the side, he saw 3 figures not far away. So that was it. Bojio turned and was about to take a step forward. Just then, she heard the person behind her say, "Do you know how to remain silent about Lin Feng's matter?" Bojio stuffed her hands into her pockets. Lin Feng has retired. What else can he do other than remain silent? That's amazing, pushing the blame to us. If he didn't do anything wrong, he would have retired. Bojio lifted her lips. No matter what we say, they will misunderstand. What's wrong with remaining silent? I will let more people know your true colors. Bojio tilted her head and took another step forward. Whatever. At this moment, another person shouted, "We've been supporting you for so long. What exactly are we supporting? Are you sure Supreme Alliance won't die with him around?" "I'm not sure." Bojio's voice was calm. "But since we have met him, I can introduce him to you. My disciple, Bei, is said to have entered the team because of her looks. Indeed, we like her a lot. I didn't choose her to inherit the Supreme Alliance. She should take on whatever responsibilities she can. The Supreme Alliance has never been a team that binds anyone. That's why you are so irresponsible towards Supreme Alliance." Bojio didn't reply. This time she really left. However, just as he turned the corner, he saw a small figure. The little figure wasn't wearing her private clothes today. Instead, she was wearing the Supreme Alliance's training uniform. As usual, she was carrying her school bag with a red keyboard in it. In the past, she was always expressionless, and Coco would pinch her face whenever he saw her, saying that she had facial paralysis. Now the little figure was actually smiling and his ears were red. Coco pretended to be frightened. He pulled Bojio and said, "Big Spade, hurry and check if little Imobe has a fever. This child keeps smiling. *CK. I always thought she couldn't smile." Bojio was helpless. "Everyone smiles, all right? Why are you so agitated? *CK, you're too calm. Take your phone and take a photo of little Imobe." Coco hugged his rabbit so he couldn't take his phone. Hence, he stuffed the rabbit into Imobe's arms and took out his phone. "I have to send it to Lin Feng and Uncle. Little Imobe is so cute when she smiles. She's so fierce when she kills people. Is her personality so cute?" Bojio reached out and caressed her head. She was smiling. She thought to herself, that's because you haven't seen the Almighty smile when he was young. He was even cuter and made people want to hug him. Chapter 1555. Bojio paused for a moment before lowering her lids and smiling. Her black earrings shimmered, carrying a mischievous aura. "I've been teaching you for so long, I'm already your master. Of course you have to treat me seriously." When little Imobe heard this, the back of her ears turned even redder. Her little face was filled with seriousness. "I will work hard and defeat them." Go ahead." Bojio reached out to adjust his collar. Coco watched as little Imobe carried the keyboard and walked away. He turned his head and said, "Why do I feel that the disciple you taught isn't like you? Little Spade, your facial expressions are still very rich. I can't see any emotions from little Imobe at all. Instead, she looks a little like Captain, especially little Imobe's fighting style. Without saying a word, she can crush the opponent. She's so fierce. Captain too." Bojio glanced over, her lips lifting. Brother Imo has indeed taught her before. I wonder what kind of results she will be able to achieve after combining our playstyles. Coco was shocked. You've learned everything? How is that possible? Bojo smiled. Little Imobe has her own way of playing. I can only give her some guidance based on her experience. Why do I always feel that when you smile, someone will be in trouble? Coco opened his mouth and bit the rabbit's ear in his arms. Bojo stuffed a hand into her pocket, her silver hair moving. That must be your imagination. I'm just looking forward to my obedient disciple's adorable style. Killing as soon as the battle begins. Isn't this kind of fighting style cute? Bojo's eyes curved into crescent moons. The word cute depends on who uses it. It has nothing to do with the way you play. Coco felt that he really shouldn't provoke Little Spade in the future. A person who could take down the captain was truly terrifying. The competition had yet to begin. The current members of Supreme Alliance were already seated there. Except for some necessary personnel. He was one of the contestants this time. There were a total of 4 teams with 20 people. There were contestants who had passed the closed beta test. There were also high-ranking players who were chosen by Supreme Alliance to participate. First, 4-2. In other words, the first round would be a team battle. The top 4 of the winning team and the MVP of the losing team, a total of 10 people would enter the finals. There was nothing wrong with the competition system. The first group battle was a test of teamwork. In the free-for-all mode after the finals, other than himself, the other 9 people were all enemies. It was a test of personal ability. A player who was the MVP of every match would directly become a professional esports player. It was indeed different from before. But it was even more perfect. It wasn't like what the rumors said. However, when it came to the competition system, different people had different views. It had probably started from that time. Bojo had the thought of taking in a disciple. But it was obvious. The 3 trainees didn't understand where they were lacking. Was it just in terms of skills? Not really. It could be seen from the character they chose this time. They were intentionally suppressing and ostracizing Imobe. No matter how much they said, they expressed how much they liked this industry. They just wanted to pull Imobe down so that the person who was the biggest threat to them wouldn't have any chance of advancing. If you don't fight in the jungle, little Imobe, what else can you do? Feng Shang had already begun to practice his stuttering, so now he could only spit out a few words at a time. Rao Rong had experienced something similar in the past, but he had never thought that such a thing would happen in the Supreme Alliance. He only laughed mockingly. I really don't like this kind of method. It's been such a long time, I'm really disappointed. I don't know about other things, but a good professional player should at least know how to fill in the position. It's too much to say that he's fighting against someone. We are all in a temporary team, everyone is thinking about winning and wouldn't purposely fight against a teammate. If he doesn't even know how to fill in the position, that only means he isn't qualified to be a professional. Chapter 1557. Top Lane Warrior. Everyone knew that this position was the most stressful position. Under normal circumstances, the person playing this position would face the 2 enemies on the opposite side. This required the assassin to frequently come to the top lane to help catch people. Otherwise it would be easy to collapse. But from the lineup, Imobe should indeed choose this position. After all, there was a lack of a top lane defender. But even so, some people who had seen Bei's video started to say, it can't be, will Bei play the top lane? She has no choice, there's only one position left. How helpless are they going to say that someone else snatched Bei's role? She will use whatever role she is assigned. That's esports. But if Bei can even play the top lane, she will be a true almighty, the all-round type. *CK, I really want to see that. When the 3 of them saw the role Imobe chose, the smirk on their faces deepened. Everything was going according to plan. They knew Imobe the best. She only knew how to jungle, she had never played anything else. They weren't jealous of who they were. They just couldn't stand people who relied on their looks and connections to become famous. Wasn't she good at gaming? Then, let everyone see how good she was if she didn't play as an assassin. With a swoosh, the special effect of the game appeared. The competition officially began. Coco's eyes were fixed on Imobe and the entire map. People who were used to playing as assassins would find it hard to play the top lane, no matter how good their basic skills were. After all, no one could be Little Spade or their captain. Those 2 people could really adapt to any position. After all, There weren't many people who could perfectly display their awareness, hand speed and talent. No one could make accurate predictions like their captain, even calculating the cooldown time. These little Mo Bay couldn't be specially trained in such a short period of time. Coco was really anxious. He turned towards Bojio, who was supporting the side of her face with one hand. When he saw her lazy expression, he instantly became listless. Little Spade, why are you so calm? What if I'm not calm? I have to personally play until the opponent calls me daddy. Bojio scoffed. I wanna, but my captain doesn't allow it. Coco inched closer. The assassin position definitely won't support little Mo Bay on the top lane. Little Mo Bay doesn't have any skills to fight in the jungle. What exactly did you train little Mo Bay? Mitch, someone like you who came from a proper team wouldn't understand how difficult it is for us ordinary players to win a game. Bojio smiled devilishly. Coco chuckled. Normal players? Is it difficult to win a game? Aren't you ashamed to say something like that to the first clear king of Zone C? When you first came out, how many people wanted to cry? Every time they met you, they would lose. Let me talk about my experience as a newbie. Bojio was unusually serious. Coco saw this and was about to listen carefully. Bojio tilted her handsome face. Her eyes were extremely dark. When your teammates snatch the beasts, you can use them to develop your finances. Little Bebe is very suitable to stand alone in the top lane. I feel like you already knew that this would happen. That's why you train little Mo Bay in advance. Coco suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Bojio denied it humbly. How is that possible? The more I look at it, the more possible it seems, Coco muttered. Coco muttered, then his eyes suddenly narrowed. Little Mo Bay sent a signal to gather, but no one came. *CK, what kind of strategy is this? 3 people on the top lane? Many people who were watching the live stream recognized Spade Z's voice and the bullet screen started flying. A company master? Master? *CK, what's going on? My god, Z has accepted a disciple. Is this the one you mentioned before? What's there to curry favor with? He must be pretty awesome to be able to get God Z to be his master. I didn't expect that. Mo Bay couldn't see the bullet screen, but she could hear her master's voice. After all, with this earphone she could hear the captain and vice-captain's sudden stop. But she couldn't talk to her master. She could only type the word OK on the screen when her character returned to the city. The next second, another piece of news came from the livestream platform. Manager Spade Z had been removed from the platform by Chin Mo. The reason was noisy. Bojio couldn't talk to her disciple anymore. She tilted her head and asked Coco, "Am I noisy?" Coco didn't reply to her. Beeping sounds came from the Almighty's group chat. Bojio opened it. The first thing she saw was a message from the world's most handsome fatty. Haha, you are obviously jealous of Bay. How dare you say that little Spade is noisy? Chinamo, you are really passionate on the inside. Bojio sent a message over. The world's most handsome fatty, little Spade, I heard that your disciple has a poker face and doesn't talk much. Ask him if he wants to come to Xiangnan. Our captain doesn't talk much either. They are a good match. It isn't suitable for them to stay at your place. It would be embarrassing to disturb your relationship. Bojio lowered her lids and typed a few words. I can leave him there for a few days, but you have to teach him something. If not, it wouldn't be right. *CK, little Spade, aren't you shameless? You aren't giving him to us and you still want to learn? The world's most handsome fatty, let me think about it. I have my principles. Bojio sighed. My disciple's cooking is delicious. It's a pity that I have my principles. Which day? Are you coming to Xiangnan or should I go to Supreme Alliance? Forget it, I will go to Supreme Alliance. I can't stay in Xiangnan anymore. Ever since Captain and Luoluo started dating, I feel like a huge third wheel. Even though they don't look any different from usual, Bojio replied. You don't have to feel it. You are. You don't have to feel it. You are. Rao Rong replied, you don't have to feel it. You are. The rest of the messages were all following. After the 10th message, Luoluo replied, you don't have to feel it. You are. The person involved has appeared. Almighty Fatty, you should know your place. Don't always stay in the base and be a third wheel. When Luoluo saw this sentence, her fingers froze. Just now, she had been joking with everyone like before. Unexpectedly, when she scrolled to the front page, she realized that they were talking about her and Captain. It was too late to retract it. More importantly, the moment she came back, she saw a sentence below. Xiangnan's Captain Xiao, Sanpeng, go and rest. The world's most handsome fatty, Captain, I just came. I still want to watch the competition live stream. Xiangnan's Captain Xiao, go and rest. Spade Z, why aren't you going to rest? Third wheel almighty fatty. Luoluo didn't watch anymore. That was because all her thoughts were on that person. What did he mean by asking almighty fatty to rest? If almighty fatty really left, they were the only two left in the viewing room. Luoluo glanced up and looked towards the person sitting beside her. At that moment, Xiao Jing placed his phone down. He glanced over, his gaze deep. Zhao Sanpeng's heart ached when he saw this scene. Captain, I'm going to rest. MMH. Captain Xiao was a man of few words. But Zhao Sanpeng still felt as though he had been hurt as a single dog. But in the end, Luoluo only had 3 days left in the team. 3 days later, Luoluo was really going to leave. She probably wouldn't be coming back anymore. She looked like she was wearing her uniform. She was only left with 3 days. Zhao Sanpeng's hand that was holding the keyboard suddenly felt heavy. In the end, he smiled. Hence, he should give them some time to be alone. Chapter 1559. After Zhao Sanpeng left, only the two of them were left in the captain's office of the Xiangnan base. She didn't feel anything just now. Now, Luoluo realized that they were sitting a little too close to each other. In the past, they would watch other teams' live streams like this. It was probably because their identities were different or because of what he said in the discussion group. Luoluo steadied her heartbeat and looked at him again. She thought that he sent Zhao Sanpeng away because he wanted to say something to her. In the end, 1 minute passed. 2 minutes passed. 3 minutes passed. He was still watching the live stream. Speaking of which, both their relationship and the way they interacted. It seemed no different from before. Did he really know that being a boyfriend and being a captain were different? If this continued, there wouldn't be any progress. Luoluo had thought about taking the initiative, but she knew better than anyone else that this person never liked to take the initiative. Every time she was live streaming, he would throw a jacket at her. He was an old-fashioned person. Besides the fact that he didn't like it, she was more worried that he would think that she was that kind of person. She knew that he wouldn't. Luoluo straightened her body when she thought about this. Her long hair swayed and she wanted to say something. But before she could, he raised his hand and tapped on the screen. How do you think the newbie from the Supreme Alliance will play? Luoluo paused. Then she smiled. The disciple taught by Z should be able to use an unexpected fighting style. However, no matter how he fights, the 3 people in his team have made a mistake. Not only will Bei not be kicked out of this match, but he will also be known by more people because of this tricky environment. Esports is just like this. That's why it's worth working hard. She was ostracized, marginalized, and maliciously speculated. Every time she felt that she should just give up. Anyway, no one would believe that she relied on her own ability to reach this stage. Another voice would come out. Your ability could only be proven on the battlefield. Become a member of a professional team and play for everyone to see. That was her in the past. Now, she saw the same method being used on Z's disciple. Luoluo had an indescribable feeling. She felt that she wanted to stay here. It didn't seem to be because she liked this industry. Some industries could erase all your passion. She liked it. She had so many teammates around her. He probably felt the same. That was why he heard her say that after she retired. If she wanted to find a boyfriend, she would have to see if he was suitable. But if they continued to interact with each other, they would discover, he just didn't want her to retire. Luoluo didn't know if she should be happy or sad. She was happy that he would always be her captain. The sad thing was that he would always stand at the position of her captain. Even now, they were still asking her the same questions, asking her to analyze every single Supreme Alliance member. She was still subconsciously training her team control. She wanted to tell him. Although she really liked him. But if he was only taking care of her as a captain, he just didn't want her to retire. There was really no need to raise such a condition. If she could, she also wanted to continue. However, she understood that her presence would only pull down the battle strength of the battle team. Moreover, there would be people who would say, look, the Xiangnan team that could make her stay isn't that great. But Luoluo didn't say anything. It was because he coveted his gentleness when she was still here. Chapter 1560. Xiao Jing, who was still watching the live stream, didn't notice Luolua's emotions. After all, it wasn't easy for Xiao Jing to find out about this. Zhao Sanpeng had nothing to do, so he decided to commentate the live stream in the training room at the side. Hello, can you hear me? Yup, I don't know what the commentators on the internet are affected by, but their commentary is too one-sided. Now let me, Lord Fatty, personally say it. The score on the battlefield is 1-0. I'm not exaggerating or slandering, but it wasn't easy to get that first kill. Don't talk nonsense to me. It's obvious that the teammates are isolating Bei. But speaking of which, you still don't understand the Supreme Alliance. No, I should say that you don't understand Little Spade. How can the disciple she chose be just good-looking? What are you thinking? Someone like me? Why can't someone like me enter the Supreme Alliance? The person who said I'm too fat, stop right there. I'm just fat for fun. When I have a girlfriend like Captain, I'll immediately become Takashi Kaneshiro. Alright, back to the main topic. Although Bei got the first blood, the competition rules are clear. Whoever enters the next round depends on the overall score of this round. I'm siding with Bei? Get it straight, little friend. I obviously want to poach Bei to our Xiangnan. How can I just siding with her? Yes. You really can't understand our thoughts as geniuses. Disappointed? Whatever, I, Lord Fatty, rely on my face to make a living. Xiangnan didn't get the championship this year and the members are all bad-tempered? Haha, my temper isn't good recently, but it has nothing to do with winning or losing. It's because my most important teammate has retired. Alright, let's not talk about this. Let's get back to the competition. Bei needs to be careful. During the team battle, will her teammates... Before Zhao Sanpeng could finish his sentence. On the screen, the first team battle in the jungle had started. Mo Bei went to support. But the three of them didn't come out immediately after Mo Bei used her skill and took ahead. They didn't come out immediately. Instead, they watched from the bushes and only came out after Mo Bei was killed. This looked like a perfect assassin's harvest. But they could have come out earlier. At least they could have helped Mo Bei resist a wave of damage. But no one went to resist. Zhao Sanpeng couldn't help but say, F***ck, it's really that sneaky. Someone immediately objected. Zhao Sanpeng was a conspiracy theorist. They were both trainees. Why was he siding with Bei? Also, the wave of assassins just now killed the most people. How was that a sneak attack? Didn't all competitions have to be played like this? Winning was the key. This was a layman's way of saying it. If an ordinary player were capable of such a feat, they would be doomed. Indeed, there was nothing and there was nothing wrong. Or perhaps he was taught by another team. There was no problem. But Supreme Alliance wouldn't teach its members that way. What's more, it wasn't for the sake of winning. It was just to sell out a teammate and pull down a person's score. Even Supreme Alliance, the organizer, couldn't say anything. Because once someone said that this kind of fighting style was wrong, that would cause even greater ripples. After all, they only believed that there was a problem with Supreme Alliance's recruitment. Those three trainees were the ones who truly loved esports. They had worked so hard for so long, why couldn't they make it? That Bei had merely been chosen by the internal department. Someone who did not have a team spirit was not the esports existence they had in mind. Group soul. They seemed to have gotten the word wrong. Group soul was never something that laymen could understand. What exactly was a group soul? Chapter 1561. In some people's eyes, the three trainees had become the representatives of the team spirit. After all, if it wasn't for the three trainees, they wouldn't have known that the Supreme Alliance was like this. Under such a situation, no matter if it was Bei or Spade Z, they didn't like it. Even if it was the entire team, it made them feel that if they didn't choose their members according to their way, it would be destroying them. Hence, they wouldn't really use logic to watch the livestream. In the end, the behavior of the three trainees could only be expressed in one word: team spirit. Zhao Sanpeng wasn't the only one who could see it. Bojio had noticed it a long time ago. She tilted her eyes, the mole under her eyes glowing brightly. But her eyes were cold, as though there wasn't any warmth in them. Coco, who was watching at the side, trembled. After all, he had never seen Little Spade like this. One must know that this fellow had always been a great seducer. Her lazy coolness could make the hearts of the people beside her jump. Today it seemed to be unusually cold. In the game, the three of them started to suppress the whole game. After the first time she was sold. After Mo Bei revived, she stood in the bushes. She seemed to be thinking about something. When Bei set off again, everyone could see it. Bei changed her full attack equipment to a half-tank and half-attack equipment. Then, she started to eat the economy crazily. At the start, Bei only brought the top lane minions. But now Bei had looted half of the jungle. In this way it would definitely attract ridicule. Just now they said that they sold Bei to suppress Bei. Look at what Bei is doing now. She isn't going to the team battle and is snatching the assassin's beasts in the jungle. Isn't she suppressing her teammates? Why isn't Master Fatty talking? Master Fatty can't be too double standard, be careful not to get slapped in the face. Zhao Sanpang chewed on a spicy stick in his mouth and laughed. Come, let's explain this to the audience who can understand. In the normal playstyle, the jungle should be left to the assassin first. That's right. But the premise was that it was a normal way of fighting. It was obvious that it was not a normal way of fighting now. Was Bei stupid just because she was young? I didn't realize that I was betrayed once, but I still want to be betrayed again in the team battle. Anyone can see through the situation now. They want to drag me down, but I won't. After I earn enough money, I'll get ready and rely on my positioning and hand speed. Even if I'm betrayed again, I'll be able to fight 1 against 5. This is Bei's next battle strategy. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm helpless. You're just trying to clear Bei's name. Zhao Sanpang swallowed the spicy stick. In your eyes, Little Spade is black, Bei is black, and Luoluo is black. There's no such thing as white people. We're all yellow people, hee hee. Then she relied on her familiarity with the map and the opponent's positioning to jump back to the defense tower. At this moment, the assassin among the 3 of them had indeed killed again. 3 kills were in the bag. In this way, the final result. The assassin was the best player of the match. But what made them furious was that Bei was in second place. Which meant that their ideal result wasn't achieved. But one of them was considered perfect. At least, the best player of the match was theirs. As long as the best player of the match was still won by the assassin in the next match, one of them would become the center of attention. By then it wouldn't matter whether they stayed in the Supreme Alliance or not. There would be reporters and teams looking for them. Regarding such an outcome, there would definitely be people who would mock Zhao Sanpang. Master Fatty, you should indeed poach Bei to Xiangnan. She's in second place, it's suitable. This time her image as a genius can't be sold. After fighting for so long, she's still in second place. Chapter 1562. The result of the victory made the 3 trainees look at each other. They felt that this was a good method. Coco was a little angry. He even thought that if there was such a person joining the Supreme Alliance in the future, it would be better to disband it. When this thought slipped through his mind, Coco paused. Coco was stunned. Most of the time, this thought had never crossed his mind. Even though he had encountered so many things, he had always wanted to persevere. Actually, if he thought about it carefully, ever since Lin Feng officially announced his retirement, he had such a thought. The Supreme Alliance was liked by too many people. They seemed to be able to withstand the scolding but not the love. Because once they were liked, they couldn't let them down. That was why he restrained himself. Some words couldn't be said anymore. That was the only way to retain the beautiful image in people's hearts. This didn't seem to be his initial intention in playing esports. Coco moved his fingers. He sat there as though he couldn't stand up. Bo Jiao tilted her head and glanced at him. It's halftime? Aren't you eating? Coco lowered his head. I don't have an appetite. Are we going to play with such people in the future? Coco, do you need me to remind you? Bo Jiao stood up, her side profile evil. The competition isn't over yet. Coco bit the rabbit's ear. That person won the best of the match? So what? Bo Jiao turned against the light and cast her shadow down. They can only be arrogant when they are teammates. Once they are on the opposite side, it won't be so easy. With that, she suddenly placed a hand on her lips and said loudly, Bei, come here. Coco's expression changed. He reached out to press her down. Little Spade, are you crazy? If you get close to Lil Bebe now, they will believe the words of those 3 people and say that Lil Bebe came in through the back door. What if I take off my uniform? Then, she held onto the railing with one hand and jumped into the Supreme Alliance's specially prepared arena for the selection contest. With one hand in her pocket, she smiled devilishly. I can just retire too. Bo Jiao said as she pulled up her zipper and threw her black jacket onto the chair. Then, she held onto the railing with one hand and jumped into the arena that the Supreme Alliance had specially prepared for the selection contest. Coco was stunned. Bo Jiao's voice could be heard in the live stream. Because they could hear it. Therefore the bullet screen was simply flying. *CK, what's going on? It must be fake. Big Spade retired? Retire? What? Retiring just like that? What are they doing? Almighty Qin, don't say anything. Hurry up and use the excuse of being noisy to make your wife take back her words of retirement. Why do I feel like the Supreme Alliance members treat retirement like a game? Is this child's play? He's not even wearing his uniform and Almighty Qin is here, but he didn't stop him. Indeed, Qin Mo was standing there. He was still the same as when they first met him, wearing a dark black combat uniform. When he looked at the youth who was laughing recklessly, his gaze was always warmer than usual. Bojio stood there ignoring the uproar. The three trainees did not expect her to do this. Just like that, he stood in front of them. Chapter 1563. You can use morals to threaten the Supreme Alliance, but to me it's useless. I'm not a pure person. With that, Bojio glanced over and said, "Bei, come here." Because the live stream was an audio recording, the audience couldn't see Bojio's face at all. But they could imagine the scene just from the voice. She was still handsome beyond everyone's expectations. Her silver hair was messy as she stood there. She didn't seem to be controlled by anything. Zhao Sanpeng, who was on the other end of the computer, was laughing hysterically. As expected of Little Spade, she's so cool. According to the feedback from the audience, she even took off her uniform? It seems like she's really going to cause trouble. Little Mo Bei's head was spinning. Actually, everything else had nothing to do with her. She came to the Supreme Alliance. Other than the fact that she liked to play esports, it was also because of one person. Spade Z. Her favorite esports player. If there was a brainless fan, she would be the brainless fan herself. When she thought about joining the Supreme Alliance one day and being able to fight alongside this person, she felt that everything was filled with hope. Now this person was going to retire. It was sudden and without any warning. Compared to so many things, it couldn't compare to the fact that this person was going to retire. Little Mo Bei walked to Bojio's side and was about to speak when someone rubbed her head. That person had a smile on his face as he looked down at her. "My disciple, you're still so cute even after being bullied." Little Mo Bei's expressionless face was slightly red. "No. It's nothing. I saw everything." Bojio reached out and placed something in Little Mo Bei's hands. Little Mo Bei opened her palm. There was a wristband lying there. The wristband was completely black and there were two words, Supreme Alliance, embroidered on it. Little Mo Bei paused. She looked at the thing in her palm and her gaze wavered. Bojio bent down and whispered something into her ear. Her voice was very soft. She could only vaguely hear a sentence. "Do you understand what I mean?" Little Mo Bei clenched her fists. She didn't speak much. "I understand. Let's go then." Bojio smiled. Little Mo Bei replied with a serious face. There were still many people asking if Spade Z would really retire. After all, Spade Z wasn't like the other team members. If he didn't retire, it would be difficult for him to continue playing. Spade Z was in her golden age. In terms of age and hand speed, no one in the country would be able to surpass her in the next year. Many people did not understand why she wanted to leave. It was simple. She knew how important Supreme Alliance was to that person. He had persevered for so many years. She didn't want to see him just watch as some people joined and think of a way to solve the problem. There was nothing to be gloomy about. This was a problem that every team would face in the end. After all, liking also changed according to the situation. And if you like it, you will feel that you are doing the right thing. When you like someone for a long time, you will have requirements. This was the foundation of man. The root of the problem could not be solved. Let's exchange positions. Some people really wanted to use this method to join the Supreme Alliance. Or they could call themselves the Supreme Alliance. That would have to wait until he or they couldn't see it. Bojio had never done things in a complicated manner. Even Coco felt aggrieved. Chapter 1564. She was originally very dashing. Unexpectedly, after Bojio finished instructing Little Mo Bei, she stood up. The back of her collar was tugged by someone. It was Qin Mo. He stood behind Bojio and said calmly to the staff, "I'll be taking her away. You guys can tabulate the scores for the next round. Also make a data map. I want to know who the best player in the previous round is based on individual damage." He didn't agree to Bojio's retirement. Instead, he asked them to make a new data map. It was also because of his decision. That was why the three trainees' expressions changed. They knew clearly that based on their current results, they had a certain advantage in terms of participation rate and damage. But if it was based on individual damage to the enemy, Bei would definitely be the highest. It was the same for Almighty Qin. Did he only look at individual combat ability and not the cooperation between the team members? Some of the people listening to the live stream didn't understand. What is Almighty Qin doing? Doesn't he believe in the data map given by the game? The results are there for all to see, okay? As the commentator Zhao Sanpang spoke up. The best player in the game should be the person who has the most influence in the team. From the analysis of the damage taken to the damage dealt to the enemy, once the team battle starts, the person who contributes the most is clear. Sometimes, the victory of a team battle is entirely because of a good tank support who roars out a big move at the most crucial moment. Not only does he protect the damage output from the back, he also cooperates with the assassin to harvest. Even if he dies, he should still be the best player in the game. Honestly, in this competition, if someone didn't want to betray his teammate, everyone would be able to see who the best player in the game is. Those who believe in the game map given in such an environment should believe it. Those who don't should continue watching the competition. Qin Mo asked for the map with the highest damage to the enemy. That's how the team chooses its members. There's no point in choosing a bastard. Some girls might not understand. You can understand it simply. Qin Mo came out to bring little Spade back. After all, this guy has always been jealous. Alright, let's stop talking. The second round is coming. Everyone was still immersed in the news of Spade Z's retirement. Just then, the livestream screen switched to the game. This time, there were also 10 people participating in the competition. The only difference was that it was an individual competition instead of a team competition. Everyone had their own camp. The game map was the most difficult fog map. This was indeed a test of everyone's basic skills. Only those who had mastered the game would have the courage to challenge such a map. After entering the game, everyone's position would be different. As soon as someone came up, they would run into someone else. Before they had the time to kill monsters in the wild to buy equipment, they would start fighting each other. Under such circumstances, it was also a test of individual skills. Whoever had better positioning and awareness would be eliminated under the same conditions. But obviously, the three of them didn't think so. They were originally good friends. As soon as they entered the game, they reported their locations and found each other. Then they began their encirclement. One of them was the main attacker while the other two were the support. The rules did not say that it was not allowed. Chapter 1565. It was really shameless to use such a method. Coco had lost count of the number of times he had bitten the rabbit's ear in his arms. The three trainees had obviously come prepared. If not, they wouldn't have used such an excuse to make Supreme Alliance speechless. If Supreme Alliance said that the results didn't count, that was unless they admitted that there was a problem with the competition system. But once they admitted that there was a problem with the competition system, it would mean that their previous words were a slap in the face. Coco was really angry. This is their motive, they went one round just to set up this trap. Rao Rong replied. If this continues, only the three of them will be able to join Supreme Alliance. Indeed, they were people who had passed Supreme Alliance's internal test, which meant that they were stronger than ordinary people. If the three of them worked together, it wouldn't be easy for the other contestants. However, in the eyes of those who no longer believed in Supreme Alliance, the three trainees weren't wrong at all. Who asked the competition system to be so unfair? Since it wasn't fair, they had to use their own methods to win. The reason they did this was because Supreme Alliance didn't respect those who relied on their own hard work to achieve. But in reality, they had noticed the loophole in the competition system right from the start. But they didn't say it because they wanted to make use of it. Hence, the reason they threw out was that the competition system wasn't fair and not the tiny loophole. It was a brilliant idea. But it's impossible for Qin Mo to not notice such a loophole. That was Zhao Sanpang's doubt. Unless he, before Zhao Sanpang could finish his thought, the second person that the three trainees had locked onto appeared on the screen. But this time, before they could attack, someone blocked their way. It was Bei. At this moment, everyone noticed that Bei had used an assassin this time. Her white clothes fluttered and she had already passed the wilderness. Almost everyone watching the live stream. They saw the words that appeared on the public screen. 1 against 3 come. Mo Bei was indeed truthful. If it was Bo Jiu, she would definitely be nonchalant. For example, Don't you guys like to fight 1 against 3? Daddy will play with you. But the effect would be the same. That was because when the 3 trainees saw the words they were shocked. One by one they adjusted their positions. Since someone had come to die, they would fulfill his wish. Anyway, their ultimate target was Bei. If he did not come to them, they would come to him. Getting rid of him in one go would save him trouble in the future. One of the sorcerers hid in the bushes strategically, waiting for Bei to come so that he could control her. The other 2 trainees stood in the middle, creating an illusion. This way of playing was indeed a little sinister. But playing games was like that. There was nothing wrong with that method. If he didn't notice the mage hiding in the bushes, there was no need to say anything since he wasn't as skilled as the other. As Bei entered, Zhao Sanpeng's old heart started to feel nervous. If Little Spade was the one on the field, he definitely wouldn't be nervous. This was because this was a common occurrence for Little Spade. The opponent was scheming. Little Spade was an experienced gamer and he could tell. But Bei was different. Bei was a newcomer. It was said that he was still a child. Zhao Sanpeng felt that the naive, romantic and innocent Bei should not be suitable. Before Zhao Sanpeng could say anything, he saw the figure on the screen move. They all thought that Bei would pass through the bushes. Unexpectedly, this person did not walk that way. Instead, he used displacement to move back and forth twice. After tricking the opponent into using a big move, he then moved forward. Zhao Sanpeng was stunned. Zhao Sanpeng exclaimed, F***ck, this way of playing. Spadesies? A fan asked. Zhao Sanpeng bit the spicy strip in his hand fiercely. F***ck. How could Little Spade have taught him such a shameless strategy? This is clearly Qin Mo's doing. Back then he used this exact maneuver to cheat me of my big move. As Zhao Sanpeng finished his sentence. When the sorcerer trainee on the screen realized what was going on, the figure had already appeared behind him. The long sword swept across and the silver light fell. A familiar sound was heard. First blood. Blood. The first drop of blood. But it wasn't over yet. After Bei revealed her whereabouts, the 2 of them would definitely come to support her immediately. One of them had already attacked Bei. Little Mo Bei waved her mouse and hid in the bushes. She only had half a tank of blood left. She had half a tank of blood against the 2 opponents. One of them was a tank and the other an ADC. Her chances of winning weren't that high. Zhao Sanpeng didn't comment because he knew that no one would be able to become Qin Mo. If it had been Qin Mo just now, he definitely wouldn't have wasted a single drop of blood. But it was already very rare for Bei to be able to do this. Most importantly, the child didn't panic. Instead, she used the game map and started to move. The 2 trainees were about to catch up to Bei. Unexpectedly, in the next second, Bei used her second skill to recover and teleported back to her original position. She killed a wild monster and ate a mouthful of blood. Her hand speed was so fast that the people watching the livestream couldn't react in time. Little Mo Bei started her second round of advancement. The 2 trainees were planning to punch Bei until she died. However, the other party had predicted their movements one step ahead of them. When the electric formation was set up, they thought that the opponent was going to go big. They didn't expect Bei to rush in front of them. Is she moving in the wrong position? Rushing in front of her? This maneuver is really a noob. She doesn't look like a genius at all. The 2 trainees thought the same way too. They seized the opportunity to take Bei away with a set of skills. Hence, they moved the keyboard in their left hand and used all their moves. But at this moment, Bei's body seemed to be covered by a layer of protective shield. It absorbed all the damage instantly and she didn't even lose a single drop of blood. It was the golden shield. Bei wasn't a noob when she rushed over just now. But there was no chance. How could an ADC who had used all his moves fight against an assassin? Moreover, this assassin was so fierce that she had no friends. She could take the opponent's head in an instant. There were 2 of them in the same area. People who weren't familiar with the game map wouldn't be able to do such maneuvers. People who weren't fast enough wouldn't be able to do it. People who didn't know how to switch their equipment and people who didn't have consciousness wouldn't be able to do it. But Bei did it. Double kill. 1 against 3. She won. Not only did she win in a clean manner. She didn't say a single word. Her clean manner made everyone fall into silence. Of course, those who mocked her would continue to mock her. They said that there was something wrong with Bei's playing style and that it wasn't her own move but Almighty Qin's. They couldn't just eliminate the 3 trainees just like that. However, to the Supreme Alliance, it wasn't important. It wasn't important to Mo Bei. She lowered her lids to look at the wrist guard on her right hand. Even if it had ended before it had even started. Even if it had only once, she had protected this team. It was as though her dream had come true. Moreover, wearing this wrist guard, it was as though that person was holding onto the mouse through her hand and was fighting with her. The back of little Mo Bei's ears turned red. She didn't say anything and continued to accept the challenge. In the end, the results of the competition were out. She deserved the title of the best in this match. However, it was also because of the results of the previous match. According to the rules, Mo Bei couldn't be included in the Supreme Alliance. Because once Mo Bei was qualified, it meant that the trainee who won the title of the best in the previous match was qualified too. Just as everyone was discussing how to judge, Qin Mo reached out his hand to press the keyboard. There is nothing difficult to judge. Let's look at the individual damage value. Whoever has the highest damage will stay. One of the 3 trainees who won the title of best couldn't take it anymore. He knew that it was still a live broadcast, so he asked, "Almighty Qin, is this how you choose people? Do you think this meets the standards?" Everyone thought that Qin Mo would explain. He thought so too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked this question. However, unexpectedly, Qin Mo only lifted his eyelids. His voice was calm and he exuded an air of nobility. The Supreme Alliance is formed by me. I decide how to choose people and what the standards are. What has it got to do with you? His words were filled with mockery. The trainee froze on the spot. Zhao Sanpeng was about to collapse from laughter on the other side of the screen. This is the first time I feel that Qin Mo's sharp tongue isn't bad. However, his own team has the confidence. Me? I don't dare to say that. Xiangnan has a senior ahead of him. Unlike the Supreme Alliance, Qin Mo fought his way up. Honestly, how he chooses people has nothing to do with anyone. A fan asked, "Since that's the case, why didn't Almighty Qin say this earlier?" Zhao Sanpeng thought about it and shook his head. He smiled. Do you think that Qin Mo doesn't feel anything when so many people retire? Other than Jianghu, Lin Feng's retirement should be him. He is the captain of the Supreme Alliance. After Lin Feng leaves, Jianghu will leave and Rao Rong won't be able to play for long. I told you before that you don't understand that feeling. The people who have accompanied you all the way till now have all retired. Do you think you would be indifferent? If you ask me how I feel, I have complicated feelings. Even in my dreams when I was younger, Luoluo, captain, and I saw the arrogant guy sitting on the bench. That's right, it was Qin Mo. At that moment, I knew that this guy was definitely my enemy. What do you mean I'm bragging? If you don't believe me after my live broadcast, you can ask Qin Mo which team he thinks is the most difficult to beat. It has to be our Xiangnan. 3 years, we have been enemies for 3 years. 3 years? Had it been so long? Zhao Sanpeng's voice was heard. Luoluo stood there, leaning against the wall and smiling. Even now, the moment she closed her eyes, she could still remember the first time they met Qin Mo. He was indeed arrogant. Regardless of the outcome, they were very fortunate. In their best years. Chapter 1566. On this day, Bei became the only member that Supreme Alliance recruited before it disbanded. At that time, many people didn't know that Supreme Alliance would disband. Those that should be mocked were still mocked, adding all sorts of negative information to the story. Some of the fans were disappointed, some of them stayed, and some of them supported her. To put it in the cruelest way, no one would always like one team. That was the norm. But people didn't understand. Once they liked someone, it was enough for them to be grateful. Hence, when Lin Feng appeared again, he had changed his appearance. Just as Jianghu had said, this person was surprisingly suited to wear a suit. It was probably because his skin was too white. Even when he pushed the door open, the wrist with the watch band seemed very textured. Young lord, the guests are all here. It was Grandfather Butler. He was still wearing a British tuxedo with a bouquet of roses in front of his chest. He was very gentlemanly. I'll go prepare the meal now. Okay. When Bo Jiu replied, she was still teaching little Mo Bei how to name a game account. Her original words were like this. Since you're such a cute girl, don't give her a rigid name. Just call her obedient disciple. It's cute and salty. Lin Feng loosened his collar. Little Spade, which era did Grandfather Butler come from? Why does he keep calling you young lord? Rao Rong, who was preparing the ingredients, glanced over when he heard this. He smiled. He wanted to know how Z was going to answer this question. Bo Jiu smiled. I didn't intend to tell everyone about this, but since you're so curious, I'll tell you the truth. Lin Feng sat up straight and focused his attention. Bo Jiu lowered her voice. Actually, my biological father isn't Fu Zhongyi. Look at him, he doesn't look like him, right? Lin Feng's eyes widened. Did Auntie? She didn't? I'm a surrogate parent. Mother, he has been taking care of me on behalf of my parents. I used to be an aristocrat, but one year, there was a war between the aristocrats. My parents were worried that I would be in danger. You read novels often, so you should understand. Lin Feng nodded in agreement. I understand. Emmich, Bojo replied and continued, at that time the situation wasn't stable, so grandfather Butler sent me here. Because I was too young, I didn't know who I was and hadn't been in contact with the other side for so many years. Moreover, the war was chaotic and he wasn't able to protect me, which was why grandfather Butler didn't look for me. Now that the other side has stabilized, grandfather Butler is here. He calls me young lord because I'm in charge now since I've inherited the family fortune. Lin Feng thought about the most common plot in novels and his eyes widened. Don't tell me there's a forest castle in your property? Isn't this a necessity? Grandpa Butler appeared with a dining cart at the right time. He turned his head and smiled. Lin Feng, Rao Rong, Coco was speechless. A forest castle was a necessity? He, the young master of a rich family, did not seem to be rich enough. How is this inheritance passed on? I'll give it a try some other day. Coco's eyes were filled with envy. He wanted to live in a forest castle. Chapter 1567. Qin Imo tilted his head, placing a book in Rao Rong's hands. Source of inspiration. Rao Rong glanced at the title, falling silent. The overbearing school hunk falls in love with me. He flipped through the first page and was confused by the prefixes. Inheriting billions, princess in a castle, driving a private jet to school, etc. Rao Rong facepalmed. He was getting old, unable to understand the preferences of youngsters. They were having hot pot. Every time Supreme Alliance had a gathering, they would either have barbecue or hot pot. Their mood would always improve after eating hot pot. This time wasn't an exception. Lin Feng seemed to have drunk a little too much. When he placed his arm on Bojio's shoulder, he didn't even notice Qin Mo's gaze. But today Qin Mo didn't seem to care. That was because of both Lin Feng and Yunhu. They weren't wearing their team uniforms today, they were wearing suits. I'm telling you, little spade, there's no need to be nervous. There's less than a month left. You should eat, play and learn. Don't give yourself too much pressure. Perhaps you might be able to perform better than you normally do. But a university's curriculum is insane, you'll understand when you get there. There isn't another university like a university, where everyone is a top student. Bojo laughed lightly. Flower Lin, don't forget you're from a university too. I really put in a lot of effort to get in. Lin Feng lowered his voice. If it wasn't for Yunhu, I would have just gone there casually. I wasn't interested in studying, but it's different now. I'm studying both business and economics. It feels like there's a gap if I don't study. Bojo arched a brow. You feel the same way too. You have to be prepared for a rainy day. Lin Feng rolled up his sleeves, preparing to scoop up a piece of beef. Yunhu was one step ahead of him, placing the beef onto his plate in a natural manner. Bojo glanced over, touching Lin Feng's shoulder. Lin Feng. F*ck, why did he have to get meat for him now? Cheers. Bojo smiled, touching his can of beer. Lin Feng smiled too. Coco was still shouting, don't snatch my prawns, they aren't cooked yet. F*ck Feng Shang, did you starve in your previous life? Shut up. Feng Shang blushed easily, especially after drinking. Do you know who I am? I'm the #1 R&B player in Zone C. Coco chuckled. Are you going to fly me? Yao Yao, who is beside watching these two people naively taking out their handphone to log in the game, she can't help but smile. When he looked at the row of people sitting opposite him, his gaze was gentle. He no longer wore his battle uniform. It wasn't just the uncle, even God Lin and God Yun were the same. But even if he was wearing a custom-made suit, he would pull open his collar and drink like a teenager. He even fought for the meat in the hot pot like before. Just like the first time they met. No one had changed. That was great. This day was destined to be an all-nighter. It seemed like he didn't want to point it out. Everyone understood this. This meal was a farewell meal. Next, Lin Feng would officially take over the Lin family and would no longer participate in any competitions or esports activities. Uncle Ian bought a ticket to Tibet. He said that he wanted to go for a walk. He was always sitting in front of the computer and wanted to experience life. Bo Jio was about to take her college entrance exam. This was probably the happiest. Chapter 1568. The college entrance examination was very important to many people. In the past, Bo Jio didn't have much experience. Now, even grandfather Butler said that he couldn't recognize his young lord. In order to marry Qin Mo, Lord Jio worked very hard. Of course, she had to read some bedtime books to help her make up stories and matchmake people. Hence the next day, the Almighty reached his hand out. "Give me your phone." "What are you doing?" Bo Jio was a magnanimous person. Of course, she couldn't give her phone to anyone, not even little Princess Qin. But the Almighty had always been someone who wouldn't let go until he achieved his goal. He reached his hand out and took the phone from her uniform pocket. "Bo Jio." "Brother Imo, you look like a girl checking on her boyfriend." Qin Imo raised his eyebrows nonchalantly. His fingers slid to a few books and was about to delete them. He didn't want her to put her thoughts on things she shouldn't be and ignore him, her boyfriend. Bo Jio's hand moved. "Don't delete them, Brother Imo. I learned the method to chase you from this. I haven't used it yet." "Is that so?" Qin Imo moved his fingers away. "It seems like it's still useful." Bo Jio smiled. "Of course it's useful." After reading it, she could understand Yao Yao and Lolua's thoughts. When girls liked someone, they didn't seem to be very confident. She was probably too thick-skinned. Or perhaps, the person in front of her had never made her feel inferior. Because a long time ago, he held her in his hands. When they were young, he called her an idiot. But he even did things like washing her hands and tying her shoelaces. He was so warm that she couldn't forget about him after she got him. No wonder she felt lonely drinking alone in the Fifth Avenue. She hadn't found the person she was looking for. Everything was fine now. Bo Jio leaned forward and lowered her eyes to kiss the person sitting on the sofa. Then she threw her laptop bag over her shoulder. Her eyes were bright and devilish. "I'm going to work. Wait for me at home." After seeing this scene, the top assistant who came to pick up Boss Qin looked back at him. Seeing the smile on Boss Qin's face, he coughed lightly. "Boss Qin, it looks like Miss Jio is the one who brings up the family. Is that okay?" "What's the problem?" Qin Mo's face was elegant as he held onto his phone. His fingers swiped across the screen before he said, "A person like your assistant who runs around every day probably doesn't understand the comfort of being taken care of by a girlfriend. If you don't live in the same environment, you won't be able to understand it." Golden assistant. His CEO's way of showing off his affection without feeling ashamed was enough. "Found it." Qin Mo's fingers paused. The assistant thought it was something important. "What are you looking for?" As he spoke, he glanced sideways at Zhang Xian. After seeing the page on the phone, his expression suddenly became a little speechless. "This is, someone was reading a book recently. She said she could learn how to woo me from it. This should be her reading account." Qin Mo's voice was calm. "Golden assistant. But CO Qin, why did you get a reading account? You can't be reading this kind of book, right?" "It's nothing." Qin Mo lifted his lids nonchalantly. "It's just to let people know about the couple's account. At the same time, tip the author and ask him to write more scenes of a girl chasing after a guy." Chapter 1569. Wednesday. It was a day that Xiangnan didn't want to face. It was probably a day that they didn't want to face. Because they had to send someone away. That person had spent 3 years here. What did 3 years mean? It meant that they could turn a high school student into a university student. It meant that they would grow from a teenager to a young adult. It meant growth. It also meant separation. Luoluo didn't want to make it too grand. But even she didn't know that after the press conference. Why were the Supreme Alliance members here too? Lin Feng was even wearing a suit. He had a tall and slender figure. Lin Hua, who looked like a dog, lit up everyone's eyes. She couldn't recognize him. Her brother Fatty was the same as before. When he saw Qin Mo, it was as though he was looking at his enemy. "Ice Block Qin, who asked you to come? Please, can't you be more competitive? This isn't the Supreme Alliance, this is Xiangnan. Why did you bring a bunch of people to our Xiangnan?" Qin Mo was wearing a beige trench coat. He lifted his eyelids slightly and glanced at the time. 12:30 a.m. "What 12:30 a.m.? I'm asking you a question. Why are you wasting time with me?" Zhao Sanpeng was confused. Qin Mo's gaze was still cold. There wasn't much warmth in it. A person like the world's most handsome fatty wouldn't care about being enemies. Ah, of course. Zhao Sanpang straightened his back. Why don't you find out who I am? I'm straightforward and I rely on my face to make a living. Even if we are enemies, we can still win next year. Qin Imo didn't bother about the end of his sentence. He wiped his hands. Since that's the case, this Master Fatty wouldn't mind treating us to a good meal. It's just a meal, theirs? Zhao Sanpeng paused. He grabbed his hair. I was wondering why he suddenly praised me. Little Spade, do you think it's appropriate for your man to behave like this? Bojio smiled, replying naturally, it's appropriate. I should show you my respect as the host. Zhao Sanpeng. You guys aren't here to send Luo Luo off. You are here with a bunch of Supreme Alliance members for a free meal, right? Also, why did he ask Little Spade that question? In Little Spade's eyes, Qin Imo, that shameless bastard, could do anything. If that's the case, Master Fatty can reimburse us for our high-speed train tickets too. Coco bit the rabbit's ear. I'm poor recently. Zhao Sanpang took a deep breath, pointing at himself and then at Qin Imo, young master of a rich family, wearing branded clothes from head to toe, and still in Supreme Alliance. How can you complain about being poor to a Xiangnan kid like me? Where's your conscience? Don't worry about the details. You know that if I can't play well in the future, I'll have to go back and inherit the family business. It'll be painful, Coco said seriously. Zhao Sanpang felt like he was going crazy. At the end of the day, the Xiangnan people were leaving. Why did Supreme Alliance come over? But, looking at Luolua's expression, she should be very happy. Zhao Sanpang turned his head away. Bojio stuffed one hand into her pocket, the other hand holding a bouquet of white roses. She placed it in Luolua's hands, smiling lightly, clean and handsome. My goddess is leaving, I can't bear to part with her. My god of spades asked me to stay. Maybe I would stay. Luoluo continued her sentence well. Her face was still slightly red. Chapter 1570. Before Luoluo could react. Just then someone pulled Bojio back. It was Qin Imo. His handsome face was elegant, but his voice was calm. If you hug her, Coco and the others will ask for a hug too. Luoluo is a girl. Does everyone want to hug her? There are so many boys here, it's better to skip this etiquette. Bojio paused. She knew that the Almighty wasn't jealous, but his words made sense. Forget it, let's not hug. Luoluo also smiled. Coco truly felt that his captain was getting more and more shameless. You can always use them as an excuse. When had they ever asked for a hug? Zhao Sanpang didn't think much of it. It was just a hug. He decisively stepped forward. If Little Spade doesn't want to carry him, I'll carry him. At this moment, Lin Feng loved to watch a show. He said from the side, go ahead and hug him. If you hug him, you'll be dead. Are you sure your team leader won't send you straight to the sky? Zhao Sanpang's outstretched hand froze in the middle. Holy shit, why didn't he think of that? He couldn't help but look at his captain. He was about to find an excuse to withdraw his hand. Unexpectedly, Luoluo was one step ahead of him. Her breath blew over. Master Fatty, thank you for taking care of me for so many years. I know that the snacks you put on the table are actually for me to eat. Zhao Sanpang had long treated Luoluo as his family. They had been together for so many years. They had advanced and retreated together for so long. It seemed that only a hug could express those emotions. Take good care of yourself in the future. Don't work so hard and don't endure it all the time. Listen to your brother Fatty. Girls should act coquettishly and it'll be easier on themselves. Don't always drink cold water, it's not good for girls. If you don't play games in the future, you won't have to stay up late. Go to bed early at night. I've stuffed a big bucket of wolfberries in your luggage, remember to brew it and drink it. Also, when two people are dating, don't give in to each other too much. No matter who he is, a guy is like you. The better you treat him, the less he appreciates you. It's the same. It seemed like it was because they were going to separate. All of a sudden he wanted to say a lot of things. Especially when he was carrying this person in his arms. There were even more things he wanted to say. Luoluo didn't want to make the parting so sad. She laughed softly and asked, Brother Fatty, you seem to have forgotten that you don't have a girlfriend yet. I'm single based on my own merits. Zhao Sanpang was always good at saying golden sentences. Lin Feng stood there and said, I think you're just relying on your own abilities to die. Are you really not afraid that Poker Face Xiao will settle the score with you? Seriously, as someone who has been through it, let me tell you, Sanpang, do you know my current situation? I just need to touch little Spade's shoulder and my captain's eyes will follow. Zhao Sanpeng was about to speak. Luoluo's voice rang out. It was a little soft so that person couldn't hear it. He won't. Huh? Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. Luoluo smiled. Our relationship isn't like Qin Mo and Spades. It's a misunderstanding. Bo Jiu glanced over. Misunderstanding? Chapter 1571. It couldn't be as simple as being a teammate. But Bo Jiu knew that it wasn't suitable for her to say that. That was the knot in their hearts. It was more suitable for Captain Xiao to resolve it. Lin Feng knew where the problem was. Luoluo had come all the way. No matter how strong a girl looked on the surface, there were things she cared about. Poker Face Xiao definitely didn't make it clear. But, Luoluo, since Poker Face Xiao is already with you, I think you should think positively. If he doesn't like you, he won't be with you. Lin Feng's voice was very low. It was obvious that he didn't want Xiao Jing to hear it. That guy was really capable. Didn't he notice the problem in this aspect? It wasn't because Xiao Jing didn't do well enough, but because he had been through so much. Luoluo really hoped that there was someone who could tell her with certainty that he liked her and that he wanted to be with her. Just like him and Yunhu. If they really wanted to be with someone for a long time, they had to be more certain. Because he understood Luoluo. The difference between those lovers and themselves was too obvious. It was so obvious that sometimes they weren't confident enough. Compared to him, Luoluo would probably have a harder time. After all, there were already many opposing voices. Luoluo laughed lightly. Luoluo laughed lightly. I know that he doesn't hate me, but there are many types of likes. Our likes are different. Actually, I'm too greedy. I'm greedy for the tolerance he has given me since the beginning. Even after I retired, he was the one who helped me settle the rumors on the internet when I went on blind dates. I'm his team member and he can't bear to see his team members being bullied. I remember the first time someone exposed me, he also responded. I even specially went to ask him and this was the answer he gave me. Poker Face Xiao doesn't know how to speak. You know that. Lin Feng truly felt that Xiao Jing's EQ was worrying. Bo Jiu glanced down. So, you don't think that he treats you as a lover? Because of what he said in the past? Not entirely. Luoluo flipped her long hair. I won't do that. The most important thing is the current feeling. In the past, we didn't seem to be in a relationship. Every time we got close, I would be extremely nervous. He was still the same as before. Sometimes, there was even a sense of distance. It wasn't the feeling of being lovers. Most of the time we were comrades. Lin Feng was confused. Why don't I understand? Luoluo smiled generously. To put it more bluntly, I want to develop further but he doesn't want to. Honestly, this is very frustrating for a girl. Ah, because of this. Lin Feng blushed. Cough, why is it because of this? Luoluo's smile was still there. I can't help it. As an adult, when you like someone you want to get close to him and sleep with him. She stretched out her hand to give Luoluo a high five. She replied lazily, I agree. Luoluo. Lin, Luoluo as a girl is as scary a girl. Luoluo is as scary a girl. Luoluo is as t. Luoluo as Luoluo is as he. Chapter 1572. When Lin Feng heard this he asked, then when you left this time he didn't stop you? Luoluo nodded. Her smile was still as beautiful as before. He probably realized that he needs to think clearly about how he feels about me. There are some things that aren't convenient to say out loud. When we are further apart, some thoughts will fade away. He probably wants me to fade away too. Bo Jiu glanced sideways at the tall figure. There was only one thought in her mind, Xiao Jing wasn't exciting enough. The other side would definitely drink. Now that there was no competition, everyone didn't need to worry so much. Qin Mo had never been interested in other people's affairs, especially when it came to relationships. But when she saw that someone was about to open his arms and hug Luoluo, she was stunned. Almighty Qin activated the reminder mode. He swirled his wine glass and looked at Xiao Jing casually. Luoluo is leaving, aren't you going to stay? I'm not sure yet. Xiao Jing's voice was very low. After so many years, I'm used to taking care of her. She seems to know that too, so she bought a ticket to leave for a few days. Qin Mo's fingers paused. I see. Xiao Jing took a sip of wine. And if you spend too much time with him, You won't be able to tell whether you like him or admire him. You think Luoluo admires you? Qin Mo smiled with interest. I really admire you. Xiao Jing narrowed his eyes. I need to calm down. I also need to confirm if I'm suitable for her. When you are sure, other people will notice Luoluo. Qin Mo's gaze was calm. Luoluo shouldn't lack people who like her. Xiao Jing paused. After hearing this, he clenched the glass in his hand. Her actions didn't escape Qin Mo's eyes, but he didn't intend to discuss further. But she was still a little surprised that Xiao Jing would worry that someone would confuse their feelings for him. If it was someone else, it wouldn't matter. And that person was Luoluo. Since he already cared so much, what else was there to confirm? As the saying goes, the onlooker sees more clearly. A group of people were still drinking. The farewell meal was always eaten very slowly. When they saw Luoluo enter the high-speed rail station, the hugs that were supposed to come still came. Everyone hugged her. Xiao Jing was the only one missing. He had just received a phone call during the dinner. It was from an academic professor who suddenly felt unwell and asked him to go over. He originally thought that it was a serious illness, but he didn't expect that it was his teacher who wanted to matchmake him. The bespectacled teacher was a kind, white-haired scholar. You're all my students. I wanted to talk to you a long time ago, but I didn't when I saw that you were focused on research and games. Now that I'm still in good health, I'll introduce you to each other. Xiao Jing, if you think your junior sister isn't bad, you can look around. Teacher, why did you suddenly tell senior brother about this? The girl blushed, raised her eyes and looked at Xiao Jing shyly but also with joy. Xiao Jing didn't look at her. Instead, he stood up and said, Teacher, I didn't think about that. The teacher paused, afraid that the atmosphere would turn cold. Don't be so absolute. Do you think I don't know you well? You're never enlightened in this aspect. Anyway, you senior brother and junior sister should interact first. When the time comes. Chapter 1573. The teacher had never seen his prize student so anxious before. He tilted his head and looked at the other student. Who is your senior sending off? I don't know. The girl's eyes dimmed. Then she smiled. It should be his teammate. I heard that someone from his team retired. You know that senior takes good care of everyone in his team. I see. The teacher smiled. Your senior isn't easy to get along with. He has never thought about relationships. Don't be anxious. Let nature take its course. As your teacher, I hope that you can be together. But I have to give you a piece of advice. Don't force it. The girl paused for a moment, then nodded and said, Teacher, what kind of person do you think I am? I do like senior brother, but it's not to the point of forcing him. But isn't it about taking the initiative now? You also know that senior brother is like that. If he doesn't take the initiative, he will never care about anyone. You're right. The teacher stood up. All right, your senior is leaving. Let's go to the research center. The girl grunted, but this time she was a little distracted. It was all because of Xiao Jing's reaction. She received news that the woman would leave today. From her perspective, there would always be people who weren't worthy of him. But because of some special reasons they could stay by his side and enjoy his care. Such people had to be clear-headed. They shouldn't treat care as love. This time the woman should understand. She paid attention to her senior's team. Although it had nothing to do with her and was far from her life circle. But she could still tell what that woman was like from the comments of those people. She didn't seem to have a proper background. She was also uncultured. She was just a little famous on the internet. She really thought that she was a goddess. After retiring, she would be nothing. Soon her fame would disappear. She would become worthless. She didn't seem like a boy. She wasn't completely thick-skinned. She still knew to leave on her own. This was the girl's truest thought. At the high-speed railway station, Luoluo was done with the security check. Many people didn't know. What had this man experienced with her? Even now, when Bojio looked up, she saw her smile. She was natural and unrestrained, just like before. When so many people didn't stand up, she was the first female professional player in the esports circle to speak up for her. She called her Adonis, no matter what gender she was. Warm and sweet. Bojio had promised Director Huang that she wouldn't act recklessly while he was in charge. However, when he saw Luoluo's back, he couldn't control himself. He reached out and grabbed her wrist. His voice was only audible to the two of them. Don't go. I'll take care of the things that made you unhappy. Chapter 1574. Alright, let's stop here. Luoluo turned after speaking. Bojio's eyes deepened. Luoluo was really happy that this person came to send her off. In fact, most of the time he was already very tired. But he still wanted to persevere. There was a long period of time when he was considering whether or not to give up. Every pro player seemed to have experienced this sort of situation before. Sometimes, when people were being talked about, they would want to turn off all sources of information. Tired, do not want to like again, is it worth it? This was probably a thought that had popped up for a long time. If it wasn't for Supreme Alliance's new lineup this year, she would probably consider retirement during the spring competition. The word condition was very subtle for esports players. Many people would be scolded to the point that they would have defenses in their hearts, to the point that they would have to consider whether or not this kind of fighting would cause a complete collapse. The more he cared, the worse the outcome would be. It wasn't like Luoluo had never experienced such a period. Perhaps he had gotten used to it, or perhaps he had become numb to it. At this moment she saw that person. When he found out that Spade Z was a girl, it was as if there was a force telling him. Girls could also rely on their strength. Therefore he still hoped that he would be able to look up and see the silhouette of that person jumping over the tower to kill. Many people did not understand. What is love? Luoluo thought that he probably wanted that person to stand in that position forever. Or they would suddenly stop in their tracks and see the news of them being recognized. These things that couldn't be done, he really wished that someone else could do it. She didn't like anyone, but she didn't regret knowing them. He didn't feel anything when he was surrounded by a group of people. When the high-speed train really started moving, Luoluo turned her head and leaned against the window. Even her tears were silent. She reached out to fasten the hood of her coat so that no one would see it. As a girl, that was probably the case. But as an esports player, he could not. Just like Cat Bear had said before, there would be a lot of people watching them in a match, not to mention in real life what would be revealed. What's more, it would take a while for him to truly be at peace after he retired. Luoluo wasn't afraid of being forgotten by anyone. However, he still felt that this was the case. When people you are familiar with leave, they will never talk about the same things again. What happened to him? Maybe you'll know. But what happened to you, and whether or not he would find out from someone else, he wouldn't know. Their social circles had always been different. Once they no longer had any connection to the team, between them can also cool down. He wondered if it would be awkward when they met in the future. Luoluo looked up at the scenery outside the window. All these years, she had liked someone before. Faithful to the end, serious and cowardly. He knew that if he went back like this, he would have to face things from his family. But Luoluo still chose this direction. It was time for the once rebellious girl to return home. Luoluo didn't know if playing esports had consumed all her passion and courage. No matter how much she was mocked, she wanted to stay. She wanted to play esports. She wanted to tell everyone that she could do it. As a result, she had become so cowardly when it came to liking someone. However, after thinking about it, even though she knew that he wasn't sure about his feelings for her, she still took advantage of his care. It seemed a little shameful. Because that was her captain. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.